Hello, chat. So you don't like it when we call you chat, but you're chat.
They're chat. Did you see the comment? There were 2 comments. People angry about being called chat.
Being called chat. Well, you're chat today. And it is December 22nd, 2020. We're almost done with this horrible year. And today we're doing security. And honestly, I don't even remember the other category because security is kind of the major story this week.
Government. And we will start with government because that's the tradition.
Yeah.
Even though security is the
bigger news.
It's the big thing this week. And I think your intro, Krista, one thing we have to point out is we should not set up people's hopes that the year ending is going to change anything.
Yeah.
No, it's not going to change anything.
What's your New Year's resolution for 2021? Survive.
Yeah, buy a house.
We got through the pandemic, but will we get through the economic repercussions?
Well, let's talk about who else is struggling during these times. And struggling is the wrong word, but things are trending downward if you are a giant tech company, because all of a sudden you are getting a lot of attention. And I swear it's every week at this point, sometimes 2 and 3 a week.
It's not the good kind of attention either.
It's across the globe. And you might look at this and you'd be like, this is a repeat story. We already did this story. No, this is a different 10 new ones.
Pretty much all the states soon.
10 states sue Google for alleged anti-competitive behavior.
Is the battery dead in this?
No, shouldn't be. I mean, I don't know.
This is a weird episode.
Is it the right profile? Yeah?
No. Hey!
Krista, do we still have your audio?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, no, that's fine. We'll just leave that in. We're not going to edit. It's Christmas week. Like, you're just going to have to take what you get.
Yeah, everything's kind of going to be weird this week.
Woo! So a bunch more states have signed on. I think a little bit of this here in the U.S. is that perhaps, they're reading the writing on the wall about the power transition. Our Attorney General stepped down. Biden is probably going to be more big tech company friendly. So the states are like, well, we might as well just proceed with this because the Attorney General is not going to do anything with the incoming administration.
Also, I think they're looking at their budgets.
A couple of the states said things that didn't make it seem like they were just going to just pay a small fine and we'll go away, but maybe that's what's going to happen.
But it's the old, anti-competitive ads controlling the infrastructure. It's the same arguments. There's nothing new there. It's just new people getting in on it, and a different lawsuit. Those Google lawyers, you think you're busy at the end of the year.
They're all just crying under their desks right now because they're not allowed to work from home.
Krista, we just got a huge hiss. What's going on? Did the HVAC come on?
Yes, sorry.
I think she might have automatic gain control turned on, which if she's quiet, it'll just slowly get louder and louder and louder.
It shouldn't have done anything different. I have not changed any settings on it other than I just had to switch computers because the other one was acting up. But
we'll power through it unless it gets worse.
I'm trying to mute myself between moments when I'm talking as well. Maybe that's not helping.
I don't know. I mean, it's definitely picking up in and out. Anyway. We talked last week about the FCC. They have just given out, or at least announced, the next round of free money that they will give to the ISPs.
You need to imagine the governmental version of that time Oprah gave away a bunch of cars.
Except none of the ISPs are excited. They're just sitting back there. It's like, of course you're going to give us money. That's what we put you in there for.
We can't wait to not use this to improve the infrastructure around the country.
And in some cases, it's more egregious than others. We talked about... was it Charter we talked about last week?
Charter, yeah.
And they're just a horrible track record. But there's one company that might actually have a worse track record. And someone, at least in power, has noticed and has said something.
Senator tries to block Frontier's FCC funding, citing ISP's various failures. It's Frontier. Now, it's funny because this senator is from West Virginia. And guess where Frontier is? West Virginia. I happen to have some personal experience with Frontier in West Virginia. And boy, howdy, let me tell you what a stinking pile of crap it is. It is amazing. It is it is shockingly bad. And so this senator went to great lengths to point out all of the other times that Frontier has literally not done anything that they've promised. And they're like, you know what? We probably shouldn't give them any money because we've been burned, 8 or 9 times now Does anybody else see this? And, the other Congress critters are like, oh, free money, whatever.
But we're going on vacation. It's the end of the year.
One very important thing you're leaving out is that Frontier is in bankruptcy right now.
Oh, yeah, there's that.
And so this office of this senator did the math. And after they satisfy their creditors as to the terms of the bankruptcy and get this money, they're still missing like $127 million to build this out. Like they literally don't have the funds to do what they're being paid to do.
So it's like every other ISP. I didn't find that unremarkable.
Yeah. They're the worst, maybe not by a large margin. But yeah.
There was another article. There was another version of this article, the alternative source of this article talked a little bit about this and also mentioned the author's personal experience with AT&T Fiber. And they're like, I think I've put it together because he's tried to sign up for AT&T Fiber like 5 or 8 times, but there's no fiber to his house. So like he'll sign up and the truck will come out and they'll be like, that's weird. We can't give you fiber. And then they leave. And so throughout 2020, he's been doing that. And then he's like, why wouldn't they ever correct that? Because they're wasting a lot of money constantly sending people out and back. And he finally put together is like lying to the FCC about coverage.
The map.
Yeah. So that's why it's never been corrected. And it's like, ooh, fraud? Shocking.
But here's the question. If this senator gets this money clawed back, or they just don't give it to him, I don't think it's actually been given out yet, is that going to improve the ISP situation for West Virginians, or is it going to make it worse?
I don't think it can get much worse than what we see now with Frontier.
What it is now.
Community broadband could actually be the best thing to happen to West Virginia, which is probably what will happen if Frontier collapses.
Is that one of those states that has laws against it that they've put in over the years? Because there's a lot of that.
I really hope not. If that senator is clued into that, then maybe they could fix it with that. It's like, do we rip the Band-Aid off at once or very slowly and painfully?
John Denver should get involved here. Sometimes when they're not suing you, these government agencies might just ring you up and let you know, it's like, we're watching. We will see everything that you do, and then they just hang up ominously. And
they don't know what else to do.
That seems to be what the FTC is doing. They're not announcing anything specific. They just want to take a look.
The FTC launches sweeping privacy study of top tech platforms. I had a completely different take on this than that, which was, you know how the FCC is constantly abdicating its responsibility? I took this as to be like the bumbling FTC, which normally does not work in the digital space, saying, okay, if we have to handle electronic stuff, we're going to have to like school ourselves and learn how to do this. And so I interpreted this as basically saying, okay, we're watching now. We'll get back to you.
They point out that anything they find is totally viable in moving forward with more stuff, fines or criminal stuff or whatever. So also going to be a busy week for whoever's preparing that package for them at the big tech companies. Yeah. They're going to be doing a lot of scrubbing. We found out this year what happened to all the Silk Road money. And the answer was the government hoarded it till it was worth, $18,000 a coin and then sold it all off for a massive profit.
Huh.
You know who didn't get any of that money was the man who created the whole thing. In fact, he got a life sentence.
No, 2 life sentences plus 40 years.
Oh, well, 2 life sentences. So some people think that's too harsh, and maybe there's a small glimmer of hope for him.
Trump is considering clemency for Silk Road founder. 2 sources tell the Daily Beast that the president has expressed sympathy for the situation of Ross Ulbricht and is currently serving 2 life sentences without the possibility of parole. I think it's 2 life sentences plus 40 years, if I remember correctly.
Now, they point out that he did, in the chat logs that were seized, he tried to have some people killed. But he wasn't charged with that. They dropped that charge.
Yeah.
So technically, was he over-sentenced? Or were they just taking accounts like, you tried to kill people? Legally, I think they have to have the charge in there to give you time for it. So.
Yeah, I don't know. It's this is not the first time that I've heard this. I've heard some people that were in Trump's sphere of influence utter things like, that's too harsh of a sentence for that. It's just because computers were involved.
Yes, there was the scope of it, but he didn't break the laws other than the computer laws.
Yeah.
And a double life sentence for computer crimes.
Yeah. Doesn't make sense.
Some people are going to argue it's like, what about, that black kid who gets 3 strikes?
Yeah.
And sells a dime bag of weed and gets life sentence, There's problems. I don't know. Well, also they point out that Assange and Snowden are maybe on that short list. I think they are much more deserving of a pardon.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is actually case law now that some of the stuff that Snowden pointed out, judges have actually said that is illegal, which is the textbook definition of making him a whistleblower. He may have done other things that we don't know about, but at least for that part of it, that was not legal activity. It's still going on.
Yeah. And the punishment he would get if they got their hands on him would be way disproportionate. Yeah. Just because he made them, he what's the thing called, like when you're punished for exposing the hypocrisy of politicians, where it's like extra severe? It's tyranny, I believe. Last week we talked about the situation in Florida with the whistleblower. Speaking of whistleblowers, this young lady, she was blowing the whistle on maybe Florida was kind of toning down the whole pandemic cases thing. Maybe just like sweep a few under the rug.
There were a lot of news articles about that insinuate that they are not using her data as a source.
Right. So she has like this alternate data, and it was another situation of maybe a little heavy-handed approach from those in power because they were embarrassed by somebody. Well, obviously, the governor is the one who has really been taking heat for this, and he had a chance to talk about it.
Angry Florida governor defends police raid on COVID data whistleblower. So we covered that last week. Deputies entered her house, guns drawn, and it's really interesting. There's so much disinformation coming out of that. But one of the amazing things here is the governor said he had no idea, but in this press conference, he indicates that he did in fact have an idea. So he's already been caught in a lie, at least one lie.
Congrats, he played himself.
Yeah.
Now it's all, I think, pretty cut and dry. If you read between the lines, it's like, yes, the governor was doing something wrong. He got embarrassed. He sent in his goons. He got caught at that. Now he's lying his way out of it. It's a tale as old as time, right? But here's a crazy twist on this story. I don't know if you caught this. This is Florida, folks. For you international viewers, you don't know about Florida and its relationship to the rest of the U.S. It's a place with really nice weather. But unlike California, which is like rich people nice weather, Florida is like white trash nice weather.
It is literally, parts of it are literally a swamp.
And it kind of like the worst of the north filters down there because it's so nice. And you get some real crazy stuff. And plus, a lot of South America just comes up and you get this sort of melting pot. And so here, let's just look at this paragraph. Wendell, if you'll read this for us.
Among the officers who took part in the raid was Erica Hindle Morris, the wife of Robert Morris, who is representing Jones.
Jones being the woman in question.
Was representing Jones in an unrelated case in which she was charged with stalking a former romantic partner. Morris has since withdrawn from the stalking case. That seems weird.
What are the odds?
This is some Jerry Springer shit.
That's just a random coincidence. That's just...
Or, maybe the odds are incredibly high that any given lawyer that you interact with in Florida is working on a stalking case.
I just like that the police lied in their police report because the police captain was like, at no time were weapons drawn, and then, there's a video.
And then the governor said they were following protocol.
I don't think that's protocol come on. The other thing, too, is they said that they were trying to get her to answer the door for like 20 minutes. The recording shows that they didn't announce they were police for 20 minutes. I can't tell you how many times I haven't answered my door because it's like, I'm not expecting anybody. I'm not going to answer the door.
Yeah, and someone pounding on your door screaming like, hell no, I'm not answering that.
Yeah, it's a sad situation. Unfortunately, it sounds like she's got a bit of a dark past, and they're probably going to use that to pick her apart.
Everybody's got a dark past if you dig deep enough. And
yeah, hers might be just a few inches under the dirt. California. Now, during the election, California, I don't know if you want to say lost. It was just the people's choice. But I think if you ask the California powers that be, the lawmakers, they would say they lost the battle against Uber and the whole whether or not those people are employees. And maybe that has lessened their patience for any other shenanigans that Uber is doing, which it is most certainly doing when it comes to giving them data about this topic.
California fines Uber $59 million for stonewalling questions about sexual assaults. Judge threatens to suspend Uber's license to operate if it doesn't comply within 30 days. This is, the operators of Uber involved in sexual assaults, because there's a thing in the app to deal with that. It happened often enough that I guess they had to worry about it in that context.
Which is so disturbing.
Yeah.
Krista, as a young woman, does this go through your mind whenever you're looking at Uber and stuff like that?
I don't ever really use Uber. I've used it maybe once for a friend's bachelorette party. Sorry, what was the question?
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, when we look at, I think was it Uber or Lyft we used. You can look at the drivers and see if they're male or female and like what kind of car they're driving. And sometimes when you're with a group of girls, it's like maybe we should go with a female driver.
Well, that's what my follow-up is like. Let's say you call an Uber and it's late and he pulls up and he's got like a My Hero Academia t-shirt and maybe some other warning signs, and he's staring at you, but he never looks you in the eye. Are you rethinking it?
If I'm with a group, probably less so. If I was by myself, I might be like, maybe not.
Now, that $59 million was so much per instance per day of them failing to report, plus an interest payment on that, because there were a lot of these. It adds up to a really big number. Unfortunate.
I don't know. There's some conspiracy theorists out there that say that Uber's sole point of existence is to launder oil money, which when they lay it out, it's like kind of convincing.
Well, if they switch to electric,
it still is laundering that, that old oil money.
Well, I guess now's the time to get it out, right? To get it out of the system before the whole thing falls apart.
Or own some other kind of transportation. Like, what if you could own all of the cab industry in,
Probably a good time to pick that up.
Yeah.
We'll see. This is another headline that we see week after week. It's just slightly different. And it's not anything major new. It's just they keep tightening the noose more and more.
Europe triples down on tough rules for tech. Most of this has to do with like incentives for small and regional businesses that compete with big tech, but also making sure that big tech is not using its influence to take over other markets. So like, I think the example they used was Google referring to Yelp or something like that.
Why did they use a computer from the 90s to make this photo?
Because it's ironic. You just don't get it, man.
It was a simpler time in computing, and a more innocent time.
They talk a lot about gatekeeping here, which we see a lot of. Different kind of gatekeeping. But basically, you can't use if you're Google, you can't use your ad power to lock out like Yelp, for example, just because you have a similar thing, which they for sure do or have done in the past. I'll say that. And this story points out that governments are going after big tech companies, and it doesn't matter if they can't get you for anything right now, because big tech companies have been doing bad stuff for years, since their existence in most cases. So they just go to the back catalog, pick something, and send you a bill.
Australia sues Facebook over its use of the Onavo app to snoop. Now, we've covered this app before in the past. This is a VPN from Facebook. And the VPN from Facebook, it funneled all of your internet traffic through Facebook. So guess what? They could build a profile on you and monitor it. And they absolutely did do that. Absolutely 100%.
Never.
In some markets, traffic on your mobile phone to Facebook was free. It was not metered. So if you use the Facebook VPN, you could essentially get unlimited data. Of course, the only side effect of that is that Mark Zuckerberg is your co-pilot.
And they've proven from other documents that were seized, I don't know if it was in relation to this, but somehow they got a hold of them, that Facebook's choice to buy was it WhatsApp, I think?
Yeah.
Was very heavily influenced by the data they got through Onavo. Because they were like, oh my God, look, all these teens are using WhatsApp. We should get that. And that might be a little of the old gatekeeping that we just talked about in the last story.
We must own that.
I like that there's a comment under this article and it just says, yeah. And it's been liked 2 times.
What a helpful comment.
Yeah.
You think that like they got done typing that and they pressed send and they got like a little burst of endorphins? It's like, I'm helping. I'm participating.
I had that app. I had no idea that I was being spied upon.
There's not even a period. It's just, yeah.
Garbage. Do you remember this whole headline? Because I can't give it to you. I can't scroll.
Yeah. I can approximate it.
This is, it's easier. I mean, we kind of have this, but not really.
Not really.
But it's easier in these less developed countries to do this really draconian stuff. And again, the big tech companies are going to be right there helping you, holding your hand, probably telling you what to do.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate that the people of Nigeria are going to have to suffer this.
Nigeria orders mobile users to link their mobile phone numbers to their citizen ID. So Nigeria has rolled out a national citizen ID program. It's a little new. They've only got about 42 million participants.
And it was like
196 million mobile users. So they need everybody that has a mobile phone. They need all their citizens to register for numbers because they want to track that now. And they're going to turn off your phone service if you don't. They did give them a 6-month extension. I think the article was updated or whatever.
Did they confirm the 6-month extension? Because they were talking about that.
That was my understanding, but maybe do we have anybody that's there can let us know? But it seemed like they were going to have to do a 6-month extension because they're not going to add 100 million people immediately.
We might have some people who are there, but now their phones don't work.
They can't comment.
I mean, it seemed like what was happening was that so many people would have to register for their national ID number so quickly that there's just no way they can handle that volume.
It seemed like the guy from who was part of that infrastructure was like, no, you have to give us 6 months. So we'll keep up with that one.
Well, switching gears to security.
And this is the one that we got a lot of comments about just because of the filming schedule. We missed this, but it is certainly the news of the week. Now, these stories, I think they're somewhat in the order in which they should be, but I mean, how many stories do you see about this week?
Hundreds.
Yeah.
Dozens, yeah.
So,
and we haven't seen the bottom of it.
Yeah, I'm trying to, we'll try to give you a little bit of a timeline, but let's just do the first headline first.
Reuters say that hackers used SolarWinds dominance against it in a sprawling spy campaign. If you're not in the loop on this, SolarWinds is a managed service provider company, but they also offer some tools. It's used everywhere. Their tools are really good, and they're just for monitoring and like sheep herding your computers. But it's really good tools. The problem is that, they've had a security incident for some time now.
And they automate updates in a super convenient package.
Yeah.
It's really kind of just forget about it. But that introduces a huge problem.
Yeah.
Because you have to trust the update software.
Who's asking it to update?
And
Russia, it turns out.
Guess what happened? Well, we don't know it's Russians. It seems
That's
like
what
it's
they say.
probably Russians. Yeah. And so someone got in there, poisoned the well, and what was this, like 80,000 companies?
It
didn't affect them all.
We do not know how deep this rabbit hole goes, and your next article talks a little bit about that. But there's more going on here than we know yet. We'll probably be reporting on that next week.
The big ones that we do know were all, like you say, in the government, and all like
mostly American,
serious government systems.
Yeah,
that you do not want the Russians in under any circumstance.
Like the system that controls the nuclear weapon arsenal.
Yes.
But there was just the number of companies who use the software is staggering. Now, SolarWinds has said that they couldn't possibly all be infected. Of course, we heard. Remember when what was the credit leak one?
Equifax.
Yeah.
Initially, it's like that's just a couple of people. So we don't know for sure, but we do know that all of a sudden that they were really big on listing their customer list because it was a lot of names and it was big names.
Yeah.
All of a sudden,
That's gone. SolarWinds has hidden its list of high-profile customers after a devastating hack. The IT contractor was at the center of a massive breach targeting federal agencies. Not just federal agencies. It was federal agencies, non-government think tanks, and high-profile IT companies. So there were so many companies and individuals hacked that whoever was responsible for this was starting to have trouble keeping up. And this was a very, very sophisticated hack in that it was very subtle. It's very hard to detect. It goes back months. And some of these customers, Microsoft has already confirmed, received a second stage to this payload. So, I mean, this potentially, the fallout from this potentially is like, you know, resetting your keys to the domain, resetting your domain encryption keys, resetting credentials, resetting. Like this is an IT administrator's worst nightmare in terms of, like, even if you weren't hacked, if you were using their tools and you had the version of the tools that had the compromise, you may be far more screwed than you realize. It's just that nothing has happened yet.
How about the patience of these guys?
Yeah.
I mean, they left this in place for a very long time. And even, you know, like you would think that during the election they might strike, but no.
No, this compromise was so subtle that when you installed the bad version, it would literally do nothing suspicious for on the order of 2 weeks.
Krista, what do you think about this digital skull?
I like that image. It's a good one.
I don't like the spacing in his teeth. Otherwise, strong image.
Strong image. And because it's kind of like particles, it looks like solar wind. Like when you see those images.
Oh, yeah. Nice little gradient. It's like it's blowing along it.
Yeah.
Now, when do you say that the patients was like getting the infection and then just like letting it sit there? That was a brilliant move. And they had this nice infrastructure of command and control. So they had one server that it would only talk to after a certain amount of time, and then that server had a one DNS entry
that would tell it what to do,
that it knew to look for to go for another subdomain to get another command and control. Fortunately, the security guys who have been probably poring over this for the last 2 weeks were able to work that out.
Microsoft and industry partners seize a key domain used in the SolarWinds hack. Updated, the seized domain has been turned into a kill switch to prevent the SolarWinds hackers to escalate infections and make new victims. That's the good news. The bad news is that now Microsoft has a piece of infrastructure that it can use for telemetry for tracking who all is infected. And let me tell you, it's not good news. I read one report that the FBI literally raided one of the SolarWinds offices in Texas because they needed to seize more evidence and they couldn't wait on them to deal with it.
And I'm sure there will be more stories before you see this.
Yes.
Because it is coming hard and fast. We're keeping up with it. Now, the greatest little nugget about this story, and I've seen some like pretty big names in security saying that that's probably not how they get in. It's just embarrassing. But it was the password. Oh,
SolarWinds 123. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I thought this is a really good. Like, I hope it looks like this is just the tip of the iceberg, and there's some really, really severe things that have happened as a result of this. Even Microsoft themselves, in some of their divisions, used SolarWinds tools, and so there's auditing and stuff like that taking place with that. I think this is a good lesson. So, like any congressperson, or like Bill Barr before he stepped down was arguing for the whole, we need a backdoor for encryption. This is the tiniest taste of what we can expect if encryption is backdoored.
They won't ever put that together, though.
Is that dog beating on her water dish back there?
No, that is my husband eating some salad out of a metal bowl.
Wow, what an animal. But now, don't you think that they will try and spin this as we need backdoors?
This is what will happen when there are backdoors.
But they will turn it around.
They won't think about that, though.
Oh my gosh.
That's not what they're going to learn from this.
Up really is down. War really is peace. This is the time that we live in.
Wait and see.
Oh my gosh. Please, audience, don't be that stupid. Don't be that stupid.
Oh, they're not in government.
Some of them probably are.
So this is a headline. I include these because I feel like people need to understand how bad this is, but I'm so bored of this same headline. It is every week.
Up to 3 million devices infected by malware-laced Chrome and Edge add-ons. Security firm identifies 28 malicious extensions hosted by Google and Microsoft. So wasn't it a couple of weeks ago that we reported that Google was basically jettisoning the entire extensions thing on Chrome because like the whole payments thing to try to remove the incentive? But this is just dark.
I can't imagine who is falling for direct message for Instagram. What does that app do you think? Like once you get it, what does it do? It's not going to actually interface with Instagram, right? Or is it trying to capture your login? Or
I don't think you can do certain things. Like you can't just log into Instagram from like a browser normally. So maybe people think, oh, this extension will let me do that, so I can post from my computer instead of my phone.
I would like to download that app just to see what it does.
Yeah, I'm sure it doesn't actually do anything that you want it to do, but
so
I may have that wrong about Instagram, but that's how I remember it working. So people probably falling for that.
But you would also, like if you search for Instagram in a Play Store, what number result is that? How many pages do you have to go through? Maybe it's like a phishing type thing. I don't know. So, well, you mentioned bar, and we know that the powers that be are constantly beating us over the head saying, we need to break your encryption. Your encryption is evil and it's wrong, and we have to stop it. But what they don't ever mention in that argument is that they don't really need to because they already have access to everything. I mean, if they have the access to your devices, they have the technology.
Eventually, they're going to get in.
And it just keeps getting better.
Israeli phone hacking firm claims it can now break into encrypted Signal app. Cellebrite claims it can now crack Signal, which is regarded as the most encrypted app and is commonly used by journalists to communicate with sources. Now, this is not over the wire. This is with the device in hand. So, yes, like what you were saying, a lot of the, oh my gosh, we need an encryption backdoor is more about surreptitious access, not access to the endpoints.
If you'll think back to prior to the election, there were a lot of news stories. This one kind of got glossed over a little bit, but there was a little bit of embarrassment there because Trump's Twitter got hacked.
We reported that.
And they have found who was responsible. And after talking to him, it turns out he's not just some ne'er-do-well or a Russian troll. He was just a guy who was, curious and trying passwords.
Trump's Twitter hack, police accept attacker's claim. This headline is misleading and wrong. So the American police force was really trying, the COVID lady, like in Florida. Oh, I said the word. Damn it. The lady in Florida, they had like the police raid. America tried to do that. And the Dutch prosecutors looked at it and were like, that's what the password is? No. We're not. This guy had honest intentions. We're not going to bring him up on charges.
What was that password, you wonder?
MAGA 2020 exclamation point.
How much would you bet? I would bet almost everything I own that he started with just MAGA 2020 and it failed the password policy. And he was like, yeah. Fine, put an exclamation.
Probably.
So, yeah. Unfortunate. They point out that he was another time he got hacked, and the password was equally bad. Do you remember what it was?
Mm-mm.
It was like another Trump-related thing. Oh, you're fired. All one word. That was in 2016. I mean, God. I hate, like the Never Trump stuff because it's just so boring at this point. But that is disgusting. Like, that's the leader of the free world.
I still like the police response to that, where they were like, yeah, let's bring him up on international charges and blah, blah, blah. And the Dutch prosecutor looked at it and like, you guys are out of your mind. And then I look at the police raid on the Florida lady and it's like,
Right. Don't embarrass the politicians. You got to give it up for the Dutch. They're not playing that game. Now, I remember originally doing this story. I did not remember all of the details of it. So here's a little bit of background for you. Apparently, Girls Do Porn was this thing where the girls did the porn knowing that it was porn, but they are now claiming that they were told it was never going on the internet, which, come on, it's 2020. It was only going to be on DVD and was only going to be sold in Australia. That turned out not to be true.
Did you get that in writing?
It went on Pornhub. And so now
40 girls do porn victims are suing Pornhub for $1 million each. The victims are sex trafficking. They are victims of sex trafficking operation. Girls do porn claim that MindGeek, Pornhub's parent company, is responsible for upending their lives. I don't think that the Pornhub or MindGeek are responsible for the original act, but I think they probably got their hands on the video. I think that an aspect of this is that now is the time to file after the whole Visa MasterCard thing from last week, but I don't think they're going to get $1 million each.
And sex trafficking, I mean, it's disgusting what happened for sure, but
Yeah.
is it sex trafficking if they knew? I mean, they were getting paid to film sex.
I feel like this is probably illegal in California. I'm not sure where it took place, but
It depends on how, if the article says coerced, so like, how were they coerced? Like, was it?
it was you get it. It was like, we saw your Instagram or whatever. We've got a modeling job for you. We're going to fly you out. You know, here's your ticket. Here's your stuff. They're picked up at the airport, and then they're brought into like a casting couch room, and they're like, okay, here's the deal. You've got to do porn. And they're like,
It's like, do you get a plane ticket back, or is it just like, now you're stuck out here?
yeah.
No, I think you could turn it down.
You can turn it down, but then you didn't
have no way to get home. Like,
Yeah.
that's the.
I don't know. Are you sure that's part of it?
Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah, because how else are you going to get paid? So you use all your money. They're like, oh, we fly you out and we'll do all this stuff. And then it's like, oh, we're going to put you up and you're going to be in this nice hotel room. And now, oh, you don't want to do this? Well, we're going to kick you out and we're not going to fly you home either.
Here's he's really going hard at that salad.
Yeah.
Here's a little pro tip for any of young ladies out there. I know you don't watch the channel. Maybe if you have a girlfriend, send her this clip. If someone tells you that they're going to make porn that won't make it onto the internet, that is literally impossible. That doesn't exist. Don't fall for that. And TikTok. Now, TikTok, we're in this big fight. Actually, I guess we're not anymore, right? Because no one cares because Trump is gone. But TikTok is in this limbo of like, are they? It's Schrodinger's TikTok. Are they banned? Are they not? Will it just not matter after January? Well, they probably have another bullet point in the maybe not category because they promised, guys, we got nothing to do with Chinese government. we're just, we're from China, but that doesn't mean we're in bed with the Chinese government.
And then TikTok has been caught sending personal data from job applicants to China. What?
Why would you need to do that?
Didn't they say that they were going to open up an American office? Huh.
So yeah, maybe your TikTok data as a user is not going to China. Maybe it is. But for sure, if you're trying to get a job, they're going to screen you.
Yeah.
And by they, I mean the Communist Party.
I mean, it's not great, but is that really too surprising though? Like,
Well,
would you
no,
be
but
surprised if you applied there and it was like, oh, this has to be screened by China because it's a Chinese company?
it's not surprising, but it is damning in terms of their eventual showdown with the U.S. government powers. Not good. Gmail and Google in particular, or in general, had a bit of a tough week. You don't want to see this.
Gmail is broken right now, one day after massive outage, according to TechCrunch. Oh, now they've fixed it. So they had an outage because their authentication server was messed up because they hit the kernel quota limit on something. Didn't plan for that, I guess. And more impressive that only one system handles authentication across all of Google. I mean, that's surprising. But then Gmail was broken just a day later for different reasons, but related reasons.
And it wasn't just you couldn't log in. It was like you couldn't authenticate. That was one of the big problems. It was also rejecting messages.
Yeah.
That's a big problem.
If you logged in to, during their main outage, if you were just logged in at all, you couldn't use certain Google properties. But like if you open an incognito window, things would continue to work correctly, but you couldn't log in.
This is a great image.
Burp.
We talk a lot about these sort of researcher-only security situations. There are definitely people out there whose whole purpose in this world is just to come up with crazy ways to break security.
I love this.
This is one of the best. Now, this guy actually has a huge history of this kind of thing, but I think this is one of, because this is going to work in almost every system.
And it's so elegant.
Yeah.
Academics turn RAM into Wi-Fi cards to steal data from air-gapped systems. Wait, what? How is that possible? Well, he figured out that you could read and write to RAM in a certain pattern as to create stuff on the electromagnetic spectrum. So reading and writing to memory in a certain pattern would produce RF interference on the frequencies that Wi-Fi use. So you can have a specially crafted application on a device like a phone near an air-gapped computer and extract information from the air-gapped computer at about 100 bytes per second, which is more than fast enough to steal encryption keys.
You're not going to get any sensitive videos from your target. But once you get that key, then you can just go get those. Here's a quick list of all the other ways this guy has broken air-gapped systems. He's a busy boy.
Oh no.
Why doesn't he already have a job?
He's just having too much fun doing this.
Yeah.
And finally, I saw this headline and I was like, that's not going to be what I think it is. Surely.
It totally was.
Why would they need to do that? But then I thought about it, I was like, of course they're doing that. Because there's this crazy thing. Like, I'm often surprised when we see weird stuff that happens like this, how much power the school has once the children are in the school.
Yeah.
Like, they can do almost anything they want. It's like, oh, we're a school. We do whatever we want. Such as?
U.S. schools are buying phone hacking tech that the FBI uses to investigate terrorists. So little Johnny's going to have all of the stuff extracted from his phone because submit to authority? This seems crazy. Like, if I was a parent, I just wouldn't give my kid a phone.
No. See, now you're in Krista fantasy land. Krista, have you modified, now that we're in 2020, have you rethought what age you'll give your kid a smartphone? Or are you sticking with whatever insane
It would be the
number?
age they start like actually doing stuff. Like, there's no reason to give your kid a phone when they're not ever like that far away from you for very long.
What about when they start going to school?
That's not that long. They're there for like a few hours every day, and you always know where they are. They're always supervised. Usually it's like teenagers who start kind of hanging out on their own, and like then I could see giving them a cell phone so they can get in touch. But like, just if they're just going to school and like the rest of the time they're with you, why?
It's never going to happen, Krista.
I would be helping my kid do like a virus or something so that like when they tried to scrape his phone, it shut down the system.
And then you would both go to jail.
Just hot glue in the port maybe would be the simpler solution. It's like I can't plug it in.
Now, unfortunately, they already have one case where they've used this that's going to turn a lot of people toward it, I think, which is there was like a, adult high school sexual relationship.
Yeah.
They used the Cellebrite to pull the deleted text messages, which were "I love you" from the adult to the. So that person's in jail, and now they've got a win on their belt. It's like, well, what if we didn't have this? But yeah, kids don't need phones at school.
I don't think they do.
No, I don't think kids need electricity. We spoiled.
Technically, no one needs electricity, but it does make things a lot easier.
Doesn't your mom have a pacemaker? I think she needs electricity.
She does, but like most people.
There's a lot of things that distract from learning at school, that's for sure.
I think most of school distracts from learning.
Yeah,
You gotta learn all the stuff that's not directly taught.
You have to, and this sounds really like, greeting card, but you really do have to learn.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing. And then you can teach yourself. For example, let's say that you wanted to learn something about, Linux or hosting things.
Oh, yeah.
Doing things online.
Linode's got some amazing tutorials from some amazing people like us, but also other people.
Krista, how big is this salad?
It's literally in like a mixing bowl.
The level
That's
one.
why you can hear it like hitting the fork hitting the side.
Listen, 2020 has been a bad year for level 1 production quality. I don't know. Here's to making it a little bit better for 2021.
Yeah, my laptop decided to mess up like right before we started, so I'm in the same office as my husband. So you may hear one of us typing periodically.
Oh yeah,
I think you need to
periodically, constantly.
you need to create a calendar entry for Friday mornings at like 10 a.m. to check laptop.
I restarted it 3 times and it was just like, I don't know. Like, I'm just not going to find any internet connections. And I was like, why? And I didn't want to like run a whole cable up to it. So I was just like, screw it. I'll just plug in my mic on the other computer. Anyway.
Well, maybe you need some new hardware, Krista. I wonder what you could do to win some hot new hardware.
Oh, go check out the Minecraft server and build something incredible. Go to forum.level1text.com for more information.
Woo!
Woo!
Tomorrow we'll be having a business, and I forget.
Sounds good. We'll see you then, chat. Bye! Hello, everybody. Today is December 23rd, and we're doing business and social media news today.
It's almost Xmas.
It is. I almost got through it without messing up the date, and then I said 23rd. It's disappointing.
Have you noticed that a lot of places are now saying December holidays? You're not allowed to say. Even Xmas is not allowed anymore.
Wow.
It's just December holidays.
I guess that's inclusive.
Well,
So happy Honda days.
Do you think that there will be a lot of gifts under the tree for little X?
Oh,
Yes.
you mean what's his face's kid?
Yeah.
How do they pronounce it? It doesn't pronounce anything like how it's spelled.
I think it's Kyle, right? I swear I think I read an article that said it was Kyle.
Yeah, probably.
That's insane.
What do you think the net worth of his Christmas will be?
Just $250,000.
Oh, you know who hates that?
The boiler.
What about his other kids? Doesn't he have like 5 or 6 other kids?
Boiler Snake's angry about the bowl. That's my job.
That's the boiler snake mating call, or it sounds too much like the boiler
I
snake.
heard the salad bowl and it was like, ooh, my turn.
Well, Mr. Musk will probably. How much time do you think he spends with that family during Christmas?
It's probably a very carefully apportioned, like 8.4% of his waking hours.
He's just the whole time. He's like, ugh, gotta get out of here. Didn't really
He's
want
just tweeting.
this. But he does have perhaps some good news to bring to his family, other than his billions of dollars, for the Christmas season.
Boring Company proposes massive Vegas expansion following monorail bankruptcy. So they want to get from Mandalay Bay to the airport in 3 minutes, because right now it takes like 30 minutes, I guess.
It's going to be the same old Teslas and tunnels situation. But they think that's going to be a huge improvement. Now, the monorail, unfortunately, because Vegas has basically been shut down for 2020, has gone into bankruptcy. Unfortunate.
Yeah.
Rip.
Good timing, I guess. If the vaccine thing picks up, he could just snap up that business. We won't discuss the vaccine stuff.
I would like to know how Boring Company plans to address its required safety concerns to do with the diameter of the tunnel and also extracting passengers in the event of, something goes wrong.
Probably going to try to subvert the government to change those laws.
Nice.
That's what I would do if I were him. Facebook is doing something that threatens a lot of publishing businesses. Has made them very angry, and unfortunately, also us, because this is what we do.
It is.
Facebook is developing a tool to summarize articles so you don't have to read them. We all get the privilege of seeing the future because we are making it.
What a cryptic sub-headline.
I think that this is going to be bad, but can you imagine the headlines from the Level 1 News during this? It's like Facebook's algorithm is a partisan hack because it summarized this article as this, when the important thing about that was this.
There's definitely, and you know what? I think what you just described, this article was about a lot more than this. And they picked that one thing out because it was the most salacious. But I would say New York Times and Wall Street Journal are on the end of needlessly wordy. And then you've got Axios, which literally is just already giving you bullet points. Axios is no nonsense. And I think that on both ends of the spectrum, you lose something.
Yeah.
So this is way too far in the... And plus the AI, it's going to get some stuff wrong. It's going to be weird.
Yeah.
But I'm sure we'll see it. So we'll see how it works. Now, if we were to have an analog of the big tech companies right now with professional wrestling, what would be happening is that Epic Games and Apple would be in the ring having just a hell of a match. And down runs Mark Zuckerberg with the chair.
Facebook wades into Fortnite makers' dispute with Apple. Social network company also dials up criticism of Apple's plan to allow iPhone users to restrict access to personal data. So what Facebook is after here is the whole users being able to load whatever they want, separate app store kind of a thing. Really, that's their number one goal. So they're saying, yeah, Epic is right because Apple ultimately is in control over everything, and they can make certain apps look better or worse than others. The reality is that Apple has recently made changes when you install for the Facebook application. It's like, hey, Facebook wants all these permissions. Are you okay with that? Most people are going to say no.
Because why would you?
Why would you indeed?
Why would you want Facebook to have that? But that is an existential threat to Facebook, and they know it. And they're worried, and they're pulling out all the stops.
Facebook hits back at Apple with a second critical newspaper ad. Apple versus the free internet, where the free internet would allow you to do things like install Facebook and have them share all of your data surreptitiously.
Krista, I bet a lot of design hours went into this full-page ad. What do you think about it?
I guess it would look good in black and white.
No, they probably printed it in color.
That's so much more expensive, though, if it's going in a newspaper.
What do you think about that? Would you call that color salmon?
Yeah, it's fine. It definitely gets the point across.
It does. It's not eye-catching though.
Yeah, not at all. Also, like I see that Facebook logo in the bottom, and I'm like, oh, come on.
Yeah. So Apple has rolled out this, which is what you were just talking about. Who is going to click allow? I mean, read that. Who is going to click allow?
It wants to track your activity across other apps and websites. Yeah, no one is going to click allow.
And so that's tough times if you're Facebook, because that is where your money comes from. So I'm sure that will heat up. And Apple is not just getting heat from Facebook. Obviously, Epic. What was the other big name that they were getting into it with? Was it like Zoom or somebody? Anyway, they're trying to get this 30% out of everybody. And it's a crazy big number, and people more and more are standing up against it. Major
U.S. news publishers joined the Coalition for App Fairness advocacy group to fight the Apple tax. This one, they're more focused on the new news publishers here are more focused on the Amazon side of things. So Amazon was playing hardball with Apple, and so Apple said, all right, you know what? We will agree to not 30%, it'll be 15%, and in some cases 0% if you're using things like Amazon Prime. And so the U.S. news publishers are saying, wait a minute, we want that same deal. And Apple's like, not so fast.
Big names, too. I mean, look at these.
The AP, the New York Times, NPR, ESPN, Vox, the Washington Post, Meredith Bloomberg, NBCU, and the Financial Times, and many others. So I think it would be in Apple's best interest to just go ahead and do this. I mean, it's not even with that. Like, let's assume that Apple agrees to everything that they want. Do you think that that's going to cost Apple any money? They're still going to make money, just not as much.
Oh, but that can't happen.
I think they agree.
They need that third yacht.
They opened that Pandora's box when they dealt with Amazon, and I'm sure that Tim Cook is reminding Bezos of that at every moment that he can.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. You have to be careful, though, because if you go too far and those names, I mean, think about all those names and think about the articles that we talk about. That's a huge portion of them. If all of a sudden they're just dogging Apple's products, then all of a sudden you're not selling $500 headphones. That's a spiral. So we'll see. Now, Apple, in their defense, maybe not on this exact topic, but with the Facebook thing and with this thing that they're doing, it does seem like they're being a lot more consumer friendly when it comes to privacy.
Apple launches new App Store privacy labels so you can see how iOS apps use your data. And some of these are hilarious. Like the Facebook one is like 7 miles long. Because it's like, hey, is this data? Is this data? Is this data? Is this data? Is this data?
It's hard to see that.
Yeah.
Maybe they got a better. No, they don't.
Now here's the thing that nobody's talking about, and it kills me because these articles are missing this. It's like Apple values your privacy and blah blah blah, and it won't share. It's a little bit of a monkey's paw situation, I guarantee you. Because if you think for 1 second that from now until the end of time, Apple is not going to monetize that data in any way, you are sadly mistaken. They will absolutely monetize that data. The first pass for monetizing that data is being between you and the advertiser. So they're going to go to an advertiser and say, hey, we've got a bunch of people that we think based on our profiles that they're going to buy a toaster. Does anybody want to buy ad space for people looking for a toaster? And then Apple will, show you ads, or Apple will have things that lead to ads. They might not be in a financial position to worry about that now. They might wait on it, but eventually it will happen.
There's somebody in the comments that's keeping track of every week where you mentioned the monkey's paw. You're on 4.
Wow.
I did notice that last week. It made me laugh.
Sorry. I'm just fascinated with it because it's like, it's like I wish that my privacy would be respected, and it's like key, and it's like, okay, all of these companies are going to go out of business except for Apple, and then Apple is absolutely going to monetize your data. So it's not, you didn't really gain anything privacy wise.
We all have our catchphrases that we rely on. It sucks when you listen back to it, but what are you going to do? Go to some sort of training for broadcasting? No.
Get better at what we do? No. Someone once pointed out how often me and Ryan say like, and for like a week or two after, I struggled to talk normally because
you realize you just
noticed.
You realize you just said like a week or two after?
Yeah, I know. It's not a good habit. Now I'm going to be super conscious of it the rest of the broadcast. But
I also notice it more when other people do it.
Mm.
And a lot of people do it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It kind of replaces said, which is, I think, why people use it so much.
Aleister Crowley said the way to deal with that is to affix in your mind a behavior that you want to remove. And then when you do it, you cut your arm.
Whoa.
And not only does the pain reinforce it, but as you're just doing stuff during the day, you're like, oh, my arm's cut. Oh, right. I did that thing. I should stop doing that. I've not tried it, but he said it was a really good thing to do.
We don't condone that method, but if you want to try it.
Now we talked about Qualcomm. They brought out their new 888 chip, and it had the modem on the chip. And I think Wendell brought up, it's like, what? How's Apple going to respond to this? Because that's been a big bone of contention in the past. And maybe this gives us shed some light on exactly what they're thinking.
Apple starts to work on its own 5G modem. Oh, this makes me so angry. Not because Apple's working on a 5G modem. None of that. It's just, I want you to think back to that Qualcomm lawsuit. There was this knockdown, drag out, anti-competitive Qualcomm, lawsuit thing. And the FTC was convinced that Qualcomm was doing something anti-competitive here, when the reality was that Intel's modem just wasn't as good as Qualcomm's. Like, that was the whole problem. And Apple's fix for that was to, in software, gimp the performance of the Qualcomm modem to make it equal to the Intel modem, because reviewers not like us, but other reviewers in the space would test that and be like, that's weird. iPhones that have the Intel modem don't perform as good. And they ultimately did that anyway and found that, for iPhones of that model, the battery performance was terrible. And there's other stuff that Qualcomm had in that lawsuit, like copies of emails from Apple people that they sent Qualcomm's internal stuff to Intel people to say, hey, you should copy whatever Qualcomm is doing here because their modem is really good. Which is, not only is that unethical, that should have gotten the whole Qualcomm lawsuit thrown out immediately. So if you think for 1 second that Apple is building their 5G modem here ethically, you are wrong.
We lost our video driver in the middle of that, so hopefully you got it all. In the past, it's been okay. I'm just going to assume it's okay.
Woo! But yeah, so Apple's going to do this, and it's going to be fine. But there's the specter of stolen intellectual property here.
Well, we'll see. Now, we just released another video, and we actually I recorded it in October, and it didn't come out for a long time. But in it, I made a joke about Stadia and how no one uses it. And people were quick to point out that people are using Stadia now almost purely because Cyberpunk might run so poorly on their hardware, they went to Stadia to get around it.
That is interesting.
That's a good use case, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, not something we really considered before, but makes sense. And that means that it's going to be your only option to play that game in certain scenarios.
Google Stadia is now available on iOS. We covered that they would be doing this, the how, and the how is that they're doing it through the web browser. The web browser's gotten sophisticated enough that it can have a reasonable Stadia client experience in a web browser. So this way, Google doesn't have to get approval for every single game individually because it's basically just a glorified web page.
Which is stupid because functionally, it is no different.
Yeah. It's Apple desperately trying to keep the magic smoke. It's like, no, the genie must not be allowed to escape the bottle.
Yeah. But some people did. Well, I saw some comments and they were like, hey, I've got this garbage video card. I got 14 frames per second. So I went to Stadia and it's fine. So I guess that's a good use case.
Makes sense. We did a video on playing Cyberpunk on a Raspberry Pi, a handheld Raspberry Pi. And that's basically how it works. It just streams it from a good computer using the Google Steam Link. And that's not a terrible experience.
Yeah. So we did a story a while back about Amazon bringing out this new service that had to do with fitness, but they wanted a full 3D scan of your body. And a lot of people were creeped out by that. But it seems like they're doubling down on that technology, not just for fitness.
Amazon wants to scan your body to make perfectly fitting shirts. They're going to, quote unquote, 3D print a shirt that is form fitting.
$25 for a t-shirt. It's a little steep.
Store.level1text.com.
All I'm thinking though is like, assuming these are all more or less custom made, isn't that not expensive enough? Like, who are you paying to sew this to your exact dimensions?
Well, so
how much are you paying them?
what they didn't say for sure, but this other brand they were talking about that does this for dresses is they do micro sizes, they call it. So they have a dress that comes in 99 sizes.
Wow.
And the machine knows how to make all 99 sizes, but they don't make any of them up front. They wait till you buy it. So they scan you. They give you a number between 1 and 99, and then they print your dress or sew your dress or whatever.
Neat.
And they might be losing money on this to open up a new.
It says
Amazon.
t-shirts are made in the U.S. from imported fabric.
Yeah. So.
Huh.
I look forward to the day when we have a local Replimat, and I can just go to the local Replimat and get whatever it was printed on demand.
You know what that's going to do, though, is going to make you way more aware of any sort of changes in weight that you experience during the year.
I'm going to have my summer and winter clothes because that already happens.
Yeah. Well, that happens to almost everybody, I think. And like the pandemic, a lot of people have that kind of thing going on. AWS is, they're killing it during the pandemic because people are loving using their services. And they keep coming up with new things. This one's not new necessarily, but it is kind of a fringe thing that is not offered by a lot of the cloud services.
AWS introduces new chaos engineering as a service offering. So what chaos engineering does is it allows you to dashboard and inject errors into your infrastructure so that it makes it more resilient, theoretically. You can make calls take too long or make, in a deliberate outage or something like that so that you can better engineer how things fail. They're doing this because of the whole, remember how like everybody had everything in US East, the US East region? It turns out that it's non-trivial technically if you want to deploy your application into multiple availability zones and balance the load. And it's also non-trivial from a cost standpoint. So they're hoping this will make some of that engineering a little easier.
And it's kind of a do-it-yourself. It's a service you get with AWS. The second biggest company now, I guess, that you would say is Gremlin, but that's as a service. So it's not quite the same. Also, I bet that a lot of people at Gremlin are getting emails from the Amazon acquisition team. One of the things that is happening after 2020 is that people really seem to have soured on California. The governor kind of embarrassed himself, had some really extreme lockdowns, and didn't do them himself. Some of the lawmakers from California are very unpopular right now. So where do you go? It seems like the answer is always the same for everybody who leaves California.
Oracle is moving its headquarters from Silicon Valley to Austin, Texas. You know who else moved? Musk.
Joe Rogan.
How do you feel about that, Wendell? How, like, knowing Oracle will have moved?
I think that it was inevitable. I think it's probably been 2 or 3 years since I had that specific complaint, but I'd always lamented that I was surprised that Oracle had not opened up an office in the Eastern District of Texas for all their patent lawsuits, because Oracle has almost fully completed their transition from technology company to litigation company. So it's like they're just litigating their old customers using their product.
Good time to be a law firm in Texas, I bet.
Yeah.
A lot of people looking for, they might keep their old ones. I don't know.
I guess at this point you're just trading all the wildfire risks to hurricane risk, right? If you're moving from California to Texas.
You could probably go North Texas and they'd be away from most of the hurricane threat, right?
Yeah. Texas is pretty big.
You'd still get some heavy rain, but it wouldn't be as bad as if you're on the coast.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're fine with that. They have storm shelters in their billion-dollar mansions, I'm sure. Now, you probably don't need this headline if you are currently shopping for a PS5 or an Xbox or a video card or a hard drive or basically anything that has to do with a PC. You already know about this.
From Reuters is reporting that the global chip shortages are threatening the production of laptops, smartphones, and more. Makers of cars and electronic devices, TVs, and smartphones are sounding the alarm bells about a global shortage of chips, which is causing manufacturing delays and consumer demand bounces back from the crisis. So a lot of holiday spending, and it's not just Samsung and TSMC that we're talking about. There are a lot of other components that are in short supply. So it may not even be chip production that we're facing as a severe limitation. So going into 2021, things probably not going to get a lot better, according to Reuters. Just FYI.
Unfortunately.
In related news, UK telling people not to stockpile food because they're totally okay, even though Brexit's happening. Might stockpile a little food too.
You should have been stockpiling chips this entire time. You stockpiled the wrong thing. Toilet
That's
paper
what
was
you
the wrong
really
choice.
need.
We should do a level 1 canning video. It's like introducing canning technology. Here's how you can avoid botulism.
We're going to just put ram sticks in there?
It's the technology of canning. You be canning food.
There are some videos about that on YouTube, but they're always like filmed by someone's grandma. So they're a little bit shaky.
Is your new kitchen ready to be a set for that?
Yeah, that would be fine.
You're going to get so many comments of people saying, I want to see that.
I thought about the NVIDIA video with Jensen. I am planning a video where I'm in front of my stove because he was in front of his stove in the kitchen because of the whole lockdown thing, and it's a really nice stove. But he's got this decorative thing behind his stove, and it's like this really intricate carving thing. And let me tell you, I made steaks, like the skillet pan grill thing, and then you throw it in the oven. And they were delicious. They were amazing. It's the first time I've had gas heat for cooking. But that wasn't the thing. It was the grease from the steaks. And so cleanup was real easy because everything was stainless steel. But the whole time I was cleaning it, I was thinking, man, cleaning grease off of Jensen's thing, there's no way that he actually uses that because you would never get all the grease out of the carving. You just never would.
That's why I don't understand when, in the 90s, the whole trend was, tiled countertops. Because I'm like, doesn't stuff get down in the grout lines? And, how hard is that to scrub out every time?
You are so immersed in your nerd world that you just assume that everybody's seen this NVIDIA video. And it's a common talking point.
Engagement challenge. Have you seen the Jensen's kitchen and his colorful spatulas?
Well, I don't know about stove technology, but it's been a while since we talked about trading technology. Now, back in the day, this was probably back almost when we started doing this, right? 2016, 2017? the microwaves were making a big deal. Remember when they bought like a 10 by 10 plot of land somewhere in Chicago just so they could put a microwave tower there? Yeah. And then somebody else bought another one to try to block it. Like, that's the crazy lengths they will go to, because they're basically just stealing money. And the faster you can go, the more money you can steal, which makes it moves the state of the art. Is this overall a good thing? I don't know.
High frequency traders push closer to light speed with cutting edge cables. So this talks about how the speed of light through glass fiber optic is only about 2/3 the speed of light in a vacuum. However, these glass fiber optic cables are hollow core, so the light stays in the hollow glass core, and that means that it travels much closer to C.
It's paywall. They have a better picture, but you can kind of see here. It's kind of a honeycomb structure, and the light is traveling inside these little pockets here.
It's pretty.
And
they should have like an interactive art piece where you can watch that.
And it's nanoseconds, but those nanoseconds get you in front of the next trader and make you money. Which, I don't know. For what I understand about efficient markets, that's not what they're designed to do.
I like the greater trend, I think, is that there's so much all of the, it's not arbitrage, but all of the non-friction in the market is captured by all of these things that move so quickly, which makes everything very rigid and immobile.
That's what they claim is the reason they should exist, is that they, quote unquote, provide liquidity. So you have something that's not trading very much, but now all of a sudden it is, but it's all robots. So if something goes wrong, the buy side is just going to go to zero, because those robots are going to pull out immediately. And you're going to be like, wait, I thought this was a liquid market. I can't get out. And speaking of markets, it's funny because every time we do a story like this, the headline is always out of date because it moves so fast. I think today we're looking at like 22 something.
24.
Right? Did it go to 24?
Wow. It was 23,879 last time I looked at it.
Wow.
Bitcoin breaks above 20,000 for the first time ever. Wow. Most valuable cryptocurrency is 5.6 higher. Remember when it was like $100 and we were like, $100.
Remember it was $8,000 and we were saying that?
That was like at the start of Level 1, because we would do a segment at the start of every news that was like, what's the Bitcoin price today?
Oh, it's at 22,752 right now.
Okay, so I'm back down.
Wow, that's still a lot. That's a lot of money.
Still impressive.
It's quite a bit, yeah.
I don't even remember. Oh, you know what? We kind of already did this one.
Yeah, we did it on the government side, but not the business side.
Whatever. Let's just.
Bloomberg has an article about the Google services outage. This is more from the business side of things. It's like how much, how much did it cost? Basically, is what we're looking at. Is this something that we can tolerate in our existence as human beings? Is something that's this outage? So probably like $100 million an hour in losses.
It was down for what, 45 minutes?
No, some of it was down for the better part of 5 or 6 hours.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say that it had something to do with it was one point of failure, one update.
Authentication, so yeah.
They've traced that down to at least one team, I'm sure. It's a bad time to be that team. I don't know if their Christmas bonus is going to go through this year.
Our hearts go out to you, that team. Sacrifice a bull or something.
Or your children, perhaps. Another story that we are following up on from last week has to do with Google's ethics department. Yes, they have one. Really, they do. But maybe they don't pay that much attention to them, and that could cause problems.
Google AI researcher's departure ignites new conflict over ethics. So this is Bloomberg Business Week, and this is a follow-up from last week. Tensions are escalating. So Gabru was out, and it's like basically an ultimatum. And then the CEO got involved and said, oh, okay, this didn't really go down the way that we had imagined. But the rest of her team and people from other departments in Google, like a lot of people, have signed on to a letter to say, we need these changes or these assurances from management or we're out too.
There she is. I will admit, when I saw that picture, my first thought was, you never want to see that haircut walk into a meeting. That's bad news. And then in the article, they pointed out that like people attack her haircut all the time, and that's part of the problem.
Yeah, it's not great.
But no, they're saying that like you're not allowed to do that. That's not only super racist, but it's like demeaning to women, and it's basically physical violence.
I mean, it is shit though. I mean, I don't have a fro, but my hair's very curly, and people, they expect it to be straight, which is stupid.
Oh, I'm not saying it doesn't
spend hours every day doing that. Like,
it doesn't need to be straight, but like maybe try to get it under some kind of control. I think you're making a statement with that on purpose.
Where do you draw the line? I mean, could I like have, could I grow my beard out really long and have some sort of like festival of winter thing going on in my beard?
I think you got to
all the time in tech. Lots of dudes have crazy long beards and no one says anything to them because they're like, oh, they're good at what they do. That's all I care about. They're not customer interfacing.
You got to round it out a little bit. I feel like these little wispy flyaways. That's my problem.
That is bullshit.
That's how I feel.
Yeah, hyperbole.
Clearly, it's not acceptable to the rest of the world. Now, this one, I was wondering, because you added this story, is there something in particular that excites you here, or are you just trying to deflect the fact that everyone knows that you're an AMD shill?
I am excited about this because, well, there's a notable absence here though, which is perhaps not good.
Okay.
So Intel has announced a whole bunch of new Optane-based storage. This is really cool. For one, remember that Intel basically sold off all of their NAND products. And at least one product here still incorporates NAND, the Intel H20. But mostly Intel was announcing a bunch of new stuff with Optane. And I was really worried about it because Optane is a legit, insanely awesome technology. It's just it costs an arm and a leg and another leg and maybe also an arm and maybe somebody else's arm. It's really, really expensive. But enterprises can't get enough of it. So they're packing in the density, they're packing in the technology. And it does look really, really awesome. But the H20 is not going to cut it for the enthusiast market. So there's new products for data center, and the data center products look really good. I did not see a successor for the 900 or the 905. I think that's a huge problem. I think Intel's making a mistake there.
I guess...
or they've just given up.
Do you think that if we have chips for these, let's assume that we do, does it still hurt storage prices if I can't get anything else to pair them with?
I think that NAND production is actually at a glut right now. So,
but if I can't get any RAM or video card to put in that new machine,
oh yeah, that's a problem.
Am I still buying storage?
Yeah, no. I think that no, that's definitely a problem. But this is also enterprise grade stuff, which follows completely different economics. Like Amazon and other companies like that buy so much stuff that this has all happened behind closed door negotiations months ago, and we would have no idea.
The one thing about Apple is that they have been experimenting with moving out of China, because there for a while it was very unpopular to be in China. Since then, China has kind of just destroyed Hong Kong, and people forgot, I feel like, in some ways.
That makes me sad.
And it's sad. But they had already put some of these things into motion, and they had moved. Of course, Taiwan is an obvious one. But then it turns out that Taiwan companies also outsource. So you have this like Russian doll of outsourcing. This one's not working out for them.
Hundreds riot at iPhone factory in India over exploitation claims. Workers of the Taiwanese-run Winston Infocom Manufacturing near Bangalore smashed glass panels with rods and flipped cars on their side. Local media reported the workers had not been paid for up to 4 months and were being forced to do extra shifts. The Taiwanese company said, "We're looking into it. We don't know. That sounds weird."
This is the security enforcement team that is now at the place. And they've got some footage of the destruction that you can check out. People not happy. That's expensive. Did that glass wall just tank that bat shot?
It did.
Wow. Well-built glass walls.
That clip of Lucille Bluth watching the clip on news that's like, a woman drove her kids off of a bridge into a river, and she goes, "Good for her." That's how I feel when I look at this and find out they haven't been paid in 4 months. Like, good for you.
Now the story was updated with responses from the company. They kind of glossed over the whole "we're not paying them" thing.
Yeah.
They said
of course they did.
they said that they were like properly paid or would be or something like that, but they didn't go into any details.
Would be doesn't pay your rent for 4 months, so screw that.
Yeah.
You should expect some riots if you're not paying your employees.
They also are claiming, and this is a really common one that is used, is that these aren't actually their employees that are rioting. These are external forces who are just coming in to foment outrage.
Right.
Yeah.
They're happy to continue just working overtime for no pay. They love the company.
Yeah, they said their overtime was an insane amount too, right?
Yeah.
It's just, they're working them around the clock and not paying them. That's the
Something like
accusation.
this happened earlier this year with garment workers. I don't know that they rioted about it, but like a bunch of Western companies put in orders for clothing at the beginning of the year. And then when everything slowed down because of the thing, they then decided, well, we're not going to change the work order and we're not going to pay them. We're just going to just disappear. And a bunch of companies got called out for that. I think H&M was one. I think one of the Kardashian clothing brands was one.
Where were these clothing factories?
I think in Bangladesh.
Oh, okay. So almost the same exact story.
Yeah.
Here's where we find out that it's all owned by the same property company or something. All the factories.
I thought that didn't Tim Cook have that thing where he's like, we look more into our company's supply chains than anybody.
No, yeah.
Yeah, that's not true at all. Unfortunately, like tech especially is really difficult.
The part that he left out of that statement was that we look into it so we can hide what we find because it's real bad.
Yeah.
Now, this device, I did not expect to see this so soon. This seems like a huge...
Seems like a steal.
And I wonder how good it is. Now, they do have some examples here, but I did not think that we were this close.
NextMind ships its real-time brain-computer interface dev kit for $3.99. So you should check out the demo video of this because it is kind of mind-blowing. See what I did there? $400? I think Level 1 can afford that.
Now, that's this little hockey puck in the back that is reading your visual cortex. And so it is. It's based on your eye movements, but it's not looking at your eyes. It's looking at your brain. Now, for that $4.99, you get like a bunch of APIs and SDKs that go with it, which includes Unity. You can start game development with this as a controller.
Neat.
And they have some examples here. They've got like, Arkanoid and just some really basic stuff that you can already do with your brain. Woo. There is a...
Part of me almost doesn't believe this, but I will be super interested to see if it actually works when people get their hands on it.
I wonder, Krista, you have such a thick mane of hair.
Yeah.
Would that be an issue? Would that create like a layer of...
In one of the videos, they have a dude wearing a baseball cap, and it's attached to the outside of the baseball cap. So I guess it can read through the fabric. I'm not sure.
I was surprised. I had built one of the open EEG things years ago, and it was good enough to play Tux Racer. So like with Tux Racer, you're basically just sliding down a hill, and like you can go left or right or slow down or speed up, and just with a few sensors, stuck to your head with like the medical tape. It was plenty good enough to control Tux.
Aren't you a little worried, though, with all these APIs and SDKs that all that's just not being funneled back to Facebook to be mined?
Yeah, whenever they come out with the Oculus Brain Scan Edition, that is absolutely going to a dashboard on Mark Zuckerberg's wall.
Well, it's already their stuff. I mean, I'm sure they're watching that without question. We talk a lot about, disinformation and foreign meddling, especially with the election. God, all we heard with the election was foreign meddling. So not only in 2020, but also in 2016. It's just, it never stopped. And there's definitely some truth to it because foreign governments, including ours, if you're somewhere else, are definitely trying to take advantages as much as possible. And in Africa, we get a really interesting situation in which there's so much trolling that they're kind of canceling each other out.
French and Russian trolls wrestle for influence in Africa, Facebook says. French. There's an election coming up in the Central African Republic later this month. And so there's a lot of disinformation coming out of France. Really? France? Yeah.
This is an interesting image. I mean, it's kind of lazy, but also kind of like it. These little boxes.
Looks like something
What are they
somebody
painted
3D
with?
printed.
Maybe it's just digital. Are they sitting on a keyboard?
Yeah.
I don't know, it says they're 3D printed. That's why they look kind of
okay.
weird.
Yeah. So yeah, they've discovered that both Russia and France have really big economical, their influence is really big, and they will make a lot of money if their person wins, because their tech companies are rapidly expanding. Remember those numbers from where they're tying it to the national ID?
Oh yeah.
The mobile numbers in Africa are massive.
Yeah.
Because you're way more likely to have a phone than any other sort of computing device.
Yep.
And these countries want a piece of that. How do you get a piece of that on really good terms? You own the politicians. How do you own the politicians? Well, you get the one that you want elected.
This makes me feel very bad, like a bad human being for saying this, but I'm glad it's not the U.S. for once.
Do you think we're in a better situation?
No, we're not in a better situation. I just don't want to feel like we're the only ones to do that.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I was
Like for once it's not us, and it's like, whew.
I mean, if
It's
you're
like whenever we do a story about people being uneducated or stupid, and it's like, oh, that's Alabama, and it's like, whew, it's not Kentucky.
But if you're going to crap on, the Africans for it's like they're uneducated, they don't understand that their politicians are, corrupt, and it's like, oh, Ajit Pai.
I mean, if you're a citizen in Central Africa, the Central African Republic, and it's like, why would somebody in France want to meddle with our stuff? That doesn't make sense. And then you have to really dig into tinfoil hat territory, and then it's like, oh.
Or look at the history of Vietnam. That might clear that up for you.
Territory in Africa, ages ago, they're probably still trying to get that influence there.
Yeah, that was the whole point.
Computers were a mistake.
I read something once that Africa basically never learned as a country to make steel. Ever.
Well, Africa is a continent.
Oh, I'm sorry, continent, yes.
Ooh.
As a continent. But the reason they never learned to make steel is because by the time they wanted steel, there were enough broken down French trucks that it was cheaper to break down the French truck than it was to try and mine.
Oh, that's I can't remember the name. There was a village that had a steel meteor, and they mined it for years instead of making their own, or they had steel that came from a meteor. And it's that old strategy, because it's like they didn't have.
But that also gives us hope for
iron.
The post-apocalypse.
No, it's steel.
We won't have to learn to smelt in the post-apocalypse. We just have to melt down what we've already got and purify it. TikTok is the hottest new social media, despite our government's efforts to destroy it. The kids seem to love it. I don't understand it. I don't know what they're doing. I'm too old for it.
It's just Vine, right? That seems to be the gist of it. It's just a replacement for Vine.
For some reason, people like it more than Vine. Why is that?
TikTok is the YouTube for people with attention deficit problems.
Which is everybody at this point. But one thing about it, everybody is trying to recreate that magic. Because, hey, what about Facebook? This is one they didn't get to buy up. What are they going to do? And they're not the only big name that's trying to basically steal it.
Reddit is buying TikTok rival Dubsmash. What a terrible name.
I think it's because didn't TikTok start out as lip syncing?
Yeah.
Like dub.
Mostly, yeah. Or dance trends.
They point out that this one is massively popular with women, especially black women. I wonder why this guy. I've never heard of it. Have you?
Nope.
This is the first I've ever heard of Dubsmash. Oh. So Reddit's going to buy it, and they're going to start incorporating it into their little automatic players on Reddit. Which those little videos never load for me.
I've noticed that Reddit seems to be on a suicide mission with their mobile website, that half the links sometimes are like, oh, you need to log in to do this. And it's like, I'm not going to.
Do you want the app?
Yeah.
I'm never going to want the app, Reddit. I'm never going to want it.
No.
And so the election was kind of this, big event. And now that it's over, kind of over, I think most people understand that it's over.
It's not over.
I think there's a small amount of people who still.
It's just the part of the history book that's like leading up to.
Yeah, I guess. But it was sort of kind of like a demarcation of time. Post-election was a different world. And especially at Facebook, a lot of people, I think, what they saw during the election led to them being severely unhappy.
After the U.S. election, key people are leaving Facebook and torching the company in their departure notes. Departing Facebook employees said the social network's failure to act on hate speech, quote unquote, makes it embarrassing to work here. Well, if that's the only reason that you find it embarrassing to work at Facebook, I don't know what to tell you.
So there's a lot of quotes here, and we won't read them all to you. But you can make what they call a badge post when you leave, which is basically like, your tombstone at Facebook. You said like, here's the summary of my time at Facebook. And they're getting hit pretty hard in those because people aren't very happy with them. They also talk a lot about spooling up this new AI to replace the whole PTSD moderation stuff. And a lot of these people who are leaving are like, I worked on the AI thing. It's not happening. We're not close.
Yeah. That makes sense. Because why would we be close? That would seem to be difficult to impossible.
And our final story is it's an obvious move, but it's also an obviously bad faith move.
In other words, if you still work at Facebook, here's something you need to work on.
This is something that they cannot defend. Don't you think that EU lawmakers are going to crucify them for this?
I would think so, yes.
But technically, they don't have any say in it anymore.
Facebook to move UK users to California terms, avoiding the EU privacy rules. So Facebook is going to shift all of its users in the United Kingdom into user agreements with the corporate headquarters in California, moving them out of their current relationship with Facebook's Irish unit and out of reach of Europe's privacy laws. So the whole Irish tax incentive thing, gone.
Now, you still are under a kind of GDPR in California, but I don't think you risk those big percentage numbers if you mess up.
Right.
That's the thing they're getting away from there. And those numbers just get bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
One of them was like, what, 10%?
10% of annual revenue.
10% of Facebook? That is a staggering number.
Yeah. I don't want to have any sympathy for Facebook, but on the other hand, a lot of the requirements in the EU, like some of the drafts and some of the stuff that they have to do, are ambiguous enough that, they would be hard-pressed to comply. And some of the requirements are directly opposed to their existing business model. So I think that it would be like, asking you or me to cut off. It's like, I'm going to kill you unless you cut off your arm. And, as we learned from the Saw movies, that's really hard.
Oh, we have to cut off our own arm?
Yeah.
Under manual power?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be tough to do.
I mean, that's basically what they're asking for. So I don't see how. I think that the EU would be better if they could propose some idea of what Facebook could do to become compliant and work on it iteratively instead of, trying to stuff the genie back in the bottle with one sweeping.
Well, what they're basically saying is, if you don't cut off your arm, we will take 10% of your blood anytime we feel like it.
Yeah. Yeah. And, if they get 2 or 3 of those in a row, they're going to pass out. And,
could be multiple countries.
Yeah. I mean,
because if Facebook is doing something wrong in France, then they're almost surely doing that same thing wrong in Ireland.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's 20%.
So I can kind of sympathize with some of these tech companies because this kind of thing should have been done in law a long time ago. And now we're kind of in this impossible situation where these companies, they just will not be able to do what is necessary to act, ethically under this new framework without more guidance.
But they did get themselves here.
They did get themselves here in fairly short order. Yes, this is true.
Yeah. So I don't think we should. It's two entities that you shouldn't have any empathy for. Which are being the EU government and Facebook.
Their motives are sad and transparent. Mostly.
Unfortunately, the battle affects all of the people.
In the context of the people that work there, I was thinking that for the people that work at Facebook, at least some of them think that Facebook's mission is to bring people together, and there's a very humanitarian mission. But in reality, it's let's just make a lot of money.
Well, like the chick with the bad hair.
Yeah,
I bet she believed up until that moment.
Yeah,
she was like, "I'm changing the world."
That's what really makes it sad, because she does seem like I'm changing the world. Like that's a good thing to encourage. But yeah, then Facebook's like no, or Google's just like no.
She got into the identity politics a lot, though.
Yeah.
Although she is right that the AI real bad at the black people, real bad. Another thing I noticed about that article that I should have brought up then, but we're at the end. This is the end of the program. Was it the New York Times or Wall Street Journal? One of the two. They now capitalize white and black every time. When did we start doing that?
That's probably that article.
I'm sure there's an editorial memo that went around.
Is that? I wonder if I remember in college we had like the MLA and the APA. I wonder if that's on a thing in that.
And when they say, like, in that article, they said white male and black woman. And they also capitalized male and woman in that context.
Interesting.
Which,
I wonder what the cause was for that change.
I don't know. It's weird because I'm pretty sure the proper English rules is you don't capitalize those.
If it's some kind of homage to like past sins, I want to know what we're changing in the literary style to make up for the past sins of leaded gasoline. Also,
news organizations have a different set of standards compared to like a paper you'd write for an English class.
Yeah, but I've never noticed it before. It's new.
Yeah,
this is a new thing. Maybe chat engagement challenge. Do you have any insight? Do you work at a publication? Have they given you this directive?
Maybe the style guide for leaded gasoline should be anytime somebody mentions leaded gasoline, it gets a strike through as an homage to all the people that died of lead poisoning and lead-related health complications.
Maybe we should just stick with the way things are because that's the standard. It makes a lot of sense. It makes it easier to communicate.
I almost made it through that with a straight face. I don't see how you do it sometimes. It's like you well, no, I really think we should eat children. It's like, how do you keep a straight face?
That's a strong argument. So many of them.
That's not even sarcasm for Ryan.
All right, Krista.
All right. We will see you guys Friday. Bye.
You won't see Krista on Friday.
Yeah, I don't have my cam up, but
she's a disembodied voice. All right, see you then.
Hello, everybody. Merry Christmas. It is December 25th, 2020, and we are doing Robot and Nonsense today. A good way to round out the holiday.
We are probably not streaming tonight.
Probably not, no.
Krista, there's another word for this day.
Christmas? What's the other one?
Is there another holiday? You said December 25th.
I said Christmas. I said Merry Christmas at the start.
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed that.
Oh.
Okay. Well, what better way to celebrate Christmas than to talk about robots? Because they are integral to the Christmas experience. Actually, they are these days, right? I mean, the toys get made.
I really want to bring the John Goodman vision of the Santa Claus bot to life from Futurama. That's my number one robot life goal.
Yeah, well, a robot Santa would be very convenient in these dark times of a pandemic. Although we did learn that he is immune.
Well, I mean, I would expect a robot that's like self-sterilizing. They also have UV accessories.
He comes down the chimney, and the children are not asleep, and they're there waiting, and he just like gasses them with disinfectant from his accessory arm. Well, we don't have that yet, but we do have robots that are joining our military.
Exclusive. AI just controlled a military plane for the first time ever. Now, I'm sure that this headline is not accurate because we covered the time that AI was controlling a plane in a simulated dogfight against a real pilot, and the pilot got slaughtered.
Well, I think that was simulated, and this is actual in the air. I agree with you. I'm sure they didn't tell us the first time this happened. This is the first press release.
Okay. But it was still impressive. It was an impressive performance.
Now, the other thing about this, and maybe the headline, maybe Popular Mechanics just, whiffed the headline here. But the first thing that they did do here is that this AI, it's simulated, but the AI was commanding the mission. So they were simulating what if the test grounds was a enemy missile launch facility. And the AI had to make decisions split-second decisions on, do we launch countermeasures or do we try to destroy the missiles? How far do I go to keep my crew alive or complete the mission? So they were kind of testing, like, what is the AI going to do? It destroyed the missiles, I think, in most cases.
I'm just remembering the intro to War Games, the movie, when, you know, the people got the call and it's like, this is going to kill 90 million people in Russia. And he's like, I can't do it. And the AI was like, go, launch.
Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah, it's got to give you a little bit less confidence when you're in that plane, knowing that the cold, unfeeling robot is going to make the decision about whether you live or die, if it helps the rest of the world.
That's just the plot of Alien.
You're supposed to have that mentality in the military? Well, I don't know how easy that is.
There's at least twice in history where the person on the button with the nuclear weapon made the right call to not launch.
There was that Russian guy.
Yeah.
Probably saved the world.
Yeah.
He should.
Two instances of that in history.
Do you know his name? Because I don't, and that's sad.
He just died, actually.
Yeah.
I think there was an article about it because they had he was in a very modest apartment in Russia, and he had some of his stuff, and he was just delighted to talk to somebody. And somebody was like sitting on the article for like a year, and then he died. They were like, "Oh, I'm going to publish the article." At least I think he died.
That's sad. Well, a lot of you, I'm sure, can get behind this. I don't know if this will end up being an excuse to do something that goes too far, but we definitely do have a problem here. I think our problem is not so much this as it is the supply chain at this point. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
But this does give certain people an advantage that's driving everybody crazy.
UK politicians call for quote unquote making the resale of goods purchased using an automated bot an illegal activity. So not using bots to buy stuff, but using bots to buy stuff and then sell it. Would this get rid of high frequency trading?
I don't think so. I think it has to be a physical good. But also, how would you identify which person on eBay got theirs through a bot?
Probably not meant for personal use of bots, only commercial and scale use of bots. Why did you buy 100 Xboxes? How did you buy 100 Xboxes?
Maybe. Also, I'm totally caught up in the clickbait here. I think Cyberpunk's use of Keanu Reeves has sparked a trend. Now we have Vin Diesel.
Did you watch the trailer for that?
No.
I watched part of the Game Awards on Twitch the other day, and it does not look good. The trailer for Arc 2. I didn't think, but I also don't play Arc. But
I was expecting the Keanu Reeves angle of Cyberpunk 2077 to be really bad, and it's actually good.
Yeah, I think they did a good job with the story there. They didn't make him this over-the-top goody two-shoes character.
Yeah,
he's very ambiguous. Yeah, that story's pretty good. Walmart. Now, this is another headline that we see a lot of, and it really is just kind of baby steps they're making toward the inevitable, which is, all the truckers in the country losing their jobs. This is maybe a little bit more than a baby step this time.
Walmart will use fully driverless trucks to make deliveries in 2021. The company is working with a startup called Getic to test box trucks with no safety drivers. So they've already been doing tests with safety drivers. It's gone really well. The article mentions they've been doing deliveries between a distribution hub and a Walmart store that's not actually open to the public, that they use for grocery, I guess online ordering and grocery delivery type things.
Right, yeah.
And so the deliveries between hub and that store have been great. So they're going to expand it in that same area. It's not nationwide or anything like that, but they're going to try it without the safety drivers in that same area.
And there's going to be a store which is operational added to the loop.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a full parking lot that it has to contend with. Interesting. They are going to use safety drivers for now, but they're going to phase them out.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Here's another rough headline. I think I remember what this one was. Do you?
What was it? Amazon, Zoox. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
their self-driving thing.
Amazon has their own self-driving thing.
Amazon has unveiled a self-driving taxi thing with a company called Zoox. And so this looks like a really neat piece of hardware, but do they have the software? Because Amazon was super light on details in terms of how the software works, where they've been doing their testing, where they get their data set. But the form factor here for the vehicle is it's two sets of passengers facing one another, There's no option for a driver. It does have an emergency stop button. I can see that in the pictures.
Also, it's kind of the thing that we haven't seen from anybody else yet. This is a bus kind of situation.
Yeah.
It's not really bus size, but it is unidirectional or bi-directional. Like there is no front of this vehicle. It goes in either direction.
They also talked about the safety features, which sounded really interesting. It sounded like the Judge Dredd style safety system, where it would encase you in a cocoon.
Oh.
Snake loves Judge Dredd. He's been Judge Dredd for
really
Halloween for the last 5 years. Alexa, I bet a lot of people, as it is Christmas Day, as we're talking to you, I bet we have a lot of new Alexa owners among our viewers.
Oh, you poor dears.
And you are lucky because not only will you be giving all of your personal details to Amazon, you can now communicate with anybody in the world.
Amazon launches live translation mode for Alexa. So they've got a demo here of like the speaker, but also the screen where Alexa is going to display what it heard and then translate it and then say it in the native language. And they feel like the machine learning model has gotten good enough that they can basically do this in real time.
So that's cool. They point out it can do it in text if you have an Alexa with a display and it beeps 2 different tones. So it's like, hey, I'm done translating. It's your turn to talk. And then you talk and then it's like, beep, other person's turn to talk. And it translates.
I can't wait for hackers to get a hold of that and cause an international incident.
Can you imagine some, like old school Eastern Kentuckians and all of a sudden their Alexa starts spouting off in Farsi to them? They're going to shotgun that thing so fast.
It's going to be a bonfire.
Voice recognition for anyone with a strong Eastern Kentucky accent, it's really hit or miss. It does not understand people from around here very well.
Oh, but it's learning.
It is learning, slowly but surely.
I love to throw in animal type stories into the nonsense section, and that is where we're going, into the nonsense section. And sometimes this is not really a nonsense story. This is kind of something could go wrong here story. I'm always a little bit hesitant about these, but we are doing a lot of this already, so I guess, just embrace it.
FDA approves genetically engineered pigs. What? I'm pretty sure this was a Futurama plot, wasn't it? No.
Look how smug that one looks.
Not for much longer.
Yeah.
But they're packed in so tight, it looks miserable.
So the engineering that they did here was to remove one protein that doesn't normally exist in humans, but exists in a lot of other mammals. And this protein, like if you get bitten by a deer tick, it exposes your body to this protein, which can cause you to have an allergic reaction to meat in the future. So you can get a meat allergy.
I think you can also just be born with that, can't you?
Yeah. And so
got that.
This removes that protein from pigs, and there may be implications in terms of like maybe pigs will become biocompatible for organs as a result of that. Because one of the reasons that pig organs get rejected in previous experiments is the presence of that protein.
We've previously cleared animals for medical purposes and for food purposes, but never both. So these pigs are the first to be both. How exciting for them. Do you think they made them a little cake? Had a little ceremony for them?
It didn't seem like the engineering that they did to remove that protein was all that much more advanced than selective breeding as well.
Yeah, maybe. So 2020, we've come to the end of it. It has been a very poor year for Hollywood. They have suffered, and I'm sure that during that time, while they couldn't do anything else, they didn't waste it. They spent it coming up with new intellectual properties. So they're not going to be rehashing the same thing over and over and over anymore, right? They probably did a lot of fresh writing. They got a lot of new, fresh ideas, I'm sure, right, for 2021?
It's official. Harrison Ford is returning in a 5th Indiana Jones movie.
Whoa,
Sean Connery passed away. I'm not interested in this movie.
The man's 75. How much adventure can he get into? I guess, he does look good for 75, though.
I don't know. Patrick Stewart's body double in Picard is pretty spry.
Yeah, he didn't have to do too much action, though, in that. He was really just like standing back, calling the shots. I guess there were a couple of scenes. Is LaBouffe going to be in this one? I couldn't find that. Because he was pretty universally hated in the last one, right?
I didn't think the Crystal Skull was not good at all. And I'm not really a Indiana Jones person, but I thought that was pretty terrible.
It would be funny if he was recast.
Or it would be good. That's another way of saying that.
It'd be pretty funny.
I would like to see Indiana Jones become, like, he turns to the dark side and he becomes like a corporate power, riches from all of his exploits, and he's trying to stop up and coming archaeologists from discovering things and buying them for himself. He's the villain. That'd be the great way to do that. It's not what they'll do. Now, we talked a lot about the tech shortages that affect everybody. In our world, the video cards are probably more out there, but for the normies, the consoles are really... Krista, didn't you say somebody in your family was struggling with this?
Yeah, she really wants one for her son, and I just don't think she's going to be able to get one before Christmas. She might be able to pull it out, but I just don't think so.
Is she willing to pay $1,000 for it?
No.
It's not happening. Yeah. But people are going to great lengths. They are making great sacrifices to get that PS5, and this story is certainly one of great sacrifice.
Space Force soldier demoted after skipping training in order to get a PS5. And he did skip training. He was only 30 minutes late.
You know, in the military, they're very big on punctuality.
Yeah.
Apparently, yeah. He was demoted. So he literally told his commanding officer, I guess, that he didn't think that the consequences of being late outweighed getting a PS5.
You got to read the actual text message quote, which you are you're making much more flowery than it was.
YOLO PS5 is greater than letters of discipline.
He did in fact get a letter of discipline and a demotion for his efforts. It is unknown, which I feel is terrible reporting, whether he got the PS5.
Don't think he did. Although Sony would be, they're missing out on the PR opportunity to just send him one.
Do we want to reward that behavior?
Sony does.
Is he your best representative? Maybe they should. Here's the move. Of course, they don't have enough stock, but they might. You give a PS5 to all the soldiers who were on time.
Ooh, yeah. It becomes one of those paradoxes where if he hadn't done it, they wouldn't have all gotten PS5s.
Right, yeah. That's a tough one. Do you remember this video? I don't remember ever seeing this.
I don't remember this.
Because in the story, they acted like this was a big deal.
Yeah, no,
I've never heard of it.
I'd never heard of it either.
I've never heard of this. Looks like it's in Colombia.
Yeah, maybe this was a big local story, but I'm kind of glad I didn't see it. I don't like stuff like this. Notorious
woman who beheaded an owl on social media is gunned down in an apparent assassination. She was shot 3 times by a gunman on a motorcycle and died en route to the hospital.
Oh, they don't have the picture of her. She'll be in this. Oh, what? Joe Biden?
What are you doing?
That's ridiculous. Anyway, apparently she made a viral video where she killed an owl, ripped its head off, and was holding the body and the head separately. I don't know why you would do that. A lot of people very upset about that. And this story kind of makes it seem like she was killed for that reason.
Yeah. She was being investigated for animal cruelty. So, what, Krista?
One of the top comments on this article is "Owls well that ends well." It has 420 upvotes as of the time.
420, of course. And I didn't notice this was still Fox News. Even more animal stories and even more animal tragedies.
Man mauled to death by pet hippo he described as like a son. Victim said that he had a relationship with the most dangerous animal in Africa. So this guy found a baby hippo stuck in the mud, and it was abandoned. And so he raised it, and something happened, and the hippo bit him a bunch of times, and then took him to where he was found.
A hippo bite has to be brutal because their teeth are not sharp.
Yeah.
It's just a dull, but their biting power is really extreme.
How you know hippos are serious business? The only time that I've ever seen Steve Irwin scared to death of animals was when he was crossing a river and there was hippos like a half a mile away, and he was just like, watching them in the binoculars the whole time, freaking out because he's like, we got to avoid the hippos.
Well, that's the other thing. They move so fast in the water.
Yeah.
That's
Whenever you watch like those documentaries and stuff too, like when they go to like an African village, like people are more afraid of the hippos than they are of like crocodiles. They're like, no, the hippos are super mean.
When he said the most dangerous animal, he wasn't kidding. They kill more humans per year than any other animal, I think. At least in Africa. But I think it's worldwide, isn't it? Maybe not. Have you ever seen where they just take a whole watermelon and they just throw it down to a hippo?
And they crush it, yeah.
You're not going to survive that. And in fact, he didn't.
No.
Unfortunate.
They are cute, though. I love the videos of Fiona, the one in Cincinnati at the zoo.
You think they're cute? The babies or the grown-ups?
Well, Fiona's cute still now, but she was super cute when she was tiny, when she was a baby hippo.
The video footage of baby hippos eating vegetables is really adorable.
It is. I mean, I understand the impulse of like wanting to keep one as a pet, but I still wouldn't do it.
Well, you're not a South African farmer, Krista. In fact, you're not a farmer of any kind because you won't buy a house.
I'm trying to buy one right now. We went to the bank this week. Get all our stuff in order.
Now, I love...
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Krista. I talked over you.
Oh, no, I was just saying we have to find a realtor now. That's our next step.
I love stories about this kind of thing. Now, we have studied or we've covered a lot of different instances of this. The most famous is the cordyceps among ants. But we did a couple of other ones. Do you remember what they were? I'm forgetting. But anyway, it's behavior modification through fungus. And the way that they make these animals behave seems impossible for an evolutionary force, right? So it's amazing that we have sharpened these fungus down to this exact behavior because it's so effective.
Scientists find 2 new species of fungi that turn flies into zombies. The insect-destroying fungi may represent the next frontier for drug discovery.
Wow, you just dropped fungi and fungi in the same read.
Fungi.
What are you trying to do?
I don't know. Make everybody angry. Sometimes I do troll like that. It's just like, oh, what's he doing? I don't understand.
Oh, we're paywall. They had to have a picture of it like attached to the fly.
So the fly will live for days until it just, I think the article describes it as the fly like it eventually just lands on its back and twitches. But it slowly eats all of the internal organs, but it eats all of the fly's internal systems in the order in which will keep the fly alive the longest. And it ends up having a hole in its abdomen where it's just spraying out more spores to infect more flies. And that's really horrific in a lot of ways. They think it gives the fly some sort of fly amphetamine, so the fly thinks it's having a good time.
And painkiller. And then, whatever their endorphin system is, it triggers that. I remember what it was now. It was the moths.
Oh, yeah.
And the moths spread the fungus through their genitals. Remember that?
Yeah.
This fungus also eats the fly's genitals.
Yeah.
The fungus loves to destroy your genitals.
Well, I can think of some other funguses that are like that.
Now, the other cool thing about this fly is that it's not just waiting to be eaten. So with the ants, the cordyceps ants, they climb the grass stalk and
just die.
They wait for a cow or something to munch them, and then they go, and that's how it reproduces itself. These guys launch fungus rockets as they're flying around. Yeah, they can still fly when they got this. They go into like robot mode, and they kind of like try to bomb other flies. And if one spore touches another fly, it gets into their abdomen.
Ugh.
Yeah. Horrific.
Yes.
I would say I'm glad I don't have anything like that, but I probably got the cat one.
Yeah.
This is, I think we did this story. Do you remember it?
Yeah. It happened again.
And clearly, no one took this seriously at the time. They have not changed anything. So, of course, it happened again.
Porn broadcast onto Leuven government building. Again, we covered it the first time. Basically, some wahoos with a projector. It's a big flat building. And you got a really powerful projector. You can project whatever you want onto the side of it.
But I think the projector itself is part of the building owns that. These people are just getting into it.
Neat.
Last time, it was a web browser. So they just got in and changed the web page. This time, this person figured out how to stream the porn directly to the projector.
Nice.
So it was coming from his machine.
It's like a giant Apple TV.
So they've promised to get to the bottom of it, but they didn't last time. So I wouldn't worry too much. I love these stories too because we have a lot of upheaval, a lot of social change happening in the Northwest. And the people who cry out for it very often, what was the celebrity where she claimed that you shouldn't be calling the cops on black people, and then a black kid with a BB gun showed up outside her house and she called the cops? I can't remember her name.
Yeah.
But this is a similar kind of thing.
Seattle politician who defunded the police call 911 to protect her from a crime she wanted to legalize. This headline is actually, I think, misleading, but not technically wrong. So she heard something that sounded like a gunshot, but was in fact a rock hitting her window. So someone from the street threw a rock large enough at her like big bay glass window or whatever that it made a loud noise. So she called the police. What they're talking about in the headline is she wants to decriminalize if somebody did that and they had a mental disorder, or they were high on drugs or coming down off a high on drugs.
Or they lived in poverty.
That would not be a criminal offense, that they would have to do something else, which is, I don't necessarily disagree with. I mean, I don't know that putting somebody like that in jail immediately is the way to handle that from a lot of standpoints. Like, there's a lot of people in jail that really need mental help more than they need to be in jail. I don't know that that's the fix for it, but
So you're okay with your windows getting smashed?
No. And I think that, somebody that is coming down off a high on drugs could kill you. There are many cases of that where somebody's like, out of their mind, depending on what they were on. You could need some defense. So I don't,
If this is the Northwest, you're not allowed to defend yourself.
I don't know what the solution is here, but the article is definitely misleading.
All right. They have a big problem with homelessness in that part of the world too, although this is a slightly different part of the world. They kind of think the same.
And corruption, as it turns out.
And homelessness would, I think, lead to rocks through your windows.
Yeah.
And leads to the kind of people who would be affected by the changes she wanted to make. And so LA is struggling to find something to do with all these homeless people. This is an interesting one that they're suggesting.
LA is paying $130,000 for 8-foot by 8-foot sheds in a bid to house homeless people. Now, each one of these sheds has running water and plumbing, but also a place to sleep and stuff like that. So they're putting the homeless people in these sheds. But something is rotten in Denmark because other counties are only paying about $13K for an 8x8 shed.
Now, this one right here, this one in front, I could go to Lowe's right now and get this for like $400.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something is horrendously wrong here.
I imagine they're doing some work inside there to maybe add like water or something, maybe electricity. But that's another maybe $2,000-$3,000.
But like, you can get a manufactured home for $65,000 that is like 680 square feet, and it has all of the plumbing and electrical. All you need is to assemble it, which a first-year carpenter could do.
Now, Krista, you love the idea of a tiny home. And it looks like this person, look at this, they got a little planter out front. You could even have a little garden, Krista. Here's my question to you. Would you, let's say I could get you one of these homeless sheds for like $5,000, but it was used. It was used here. Do you want that?
Well, not now that I'm married, but if I was like on my own, and $5K for a home, that's not terrible.
What if,
this is ridiculous. The ridiculous part of the story is how much they're paying. It's good that they're actually trying to address the problem. The next problem they should address is the fact that they don't zone the city at all so they can just build affordable housing.
What if you got your big piece of land? Would you like to have a little tiny house maybe just to get away from it once in a while?
Yeah, that wouldn't be bad. There was a house for sale. It was a tiny house, and it was on 25 acres, but they wanted a stupid amount of money for it. It's already sold. That's the way the market is right now. But
yeah, I could go for a tiny cabin in the woods.
Well, but you'd have to run utilities if you put it on your property. That might be
not if it was a secondary structure.
You could do solar in a septic tank.
Yeah. If it's a secondary structure and like you're not bothering with plumbing, I don't think it matters. Like, you don't have to have it inspected or anything.
Well, keep an eye on that secondary market because I don't think this is going to work, what they're doing.
Yeah.
Transportation might be a problem. You got to get it over here.
Yeah.
So I know that I don't remember. Is it Ontario or Ontario?
I was going to say Ontarian.
I think Ontario is right because that sounds wrong to me.
It's Ontario, and then Ontarian.
Okay.
Engagement challenge, chat.
So in Ontario, they have a real big problem with porch piracy, and I think that's universal at this point. The more desperate people are getting during the pandemic, the more that they're stealing. What do? One person has a novel solution.
Ontarian leaves packages of poop on porch, and it apparently got stolen after only 40 minutes. So there's a big problem with porch piracy there, especially with the whole lockdown and everything that's going on there.
Do you think, you get mad because someone stole your package, and you're like, I'm going to do something about this. But then there's that moment when you're squatting over a box, and you're like, what am I doing?
I feel like you get the box out, and that's the point where it's like, okay, I've gone too far, but I guess this person went through the whole song and dance.
I want there was a guy that made Thor's hammer, but it's electromagnetic, and so he's got like something so that the hammer knows that it's him, and it'll turn the electromagnet on and off. And so he was putting it down on something, and the electromagnet kicks on, and then when the electromagnet's on, you're not moving it from whatever it was stuck to. But he could pick it up because the magnet would turn off. I want that, but the Amazon package. I want the hilarious with the Benny Hill music with these people coming up to them. It's like they start to pick up the package, and then the electromagnet comes on, and it goes boom. That would be amazing.
I like that idea. I would tweak it a little bit in that rather than the electromagnet, why don't we go for a landmine?
That's not allowed. You're not allowed to set booby traps.
That would cause property damage. That's the reason I don't want to do that. Now, it's been a while that we have not seen the social media challenges. Remember all the crazy, like the Clorox and
Ice
the
bucket
Tide
challenge.
Pods? Well, the ice bucket wasn't as destructive, but there was the boiling water challenge. Remember the boiling water challenge?
Oh, yeah.
A lot of bad ideas get disseminated over social media, and generally young people will act them out in ways that are very dangerous. And finally, we have another one for 2020.
The Irish Times reports that you don't want to Gardaí, I don't know how to say that, warns against social media prank of lying in front of traffic. One girl's already gone to the hospital with internal injuries.
Now you're thinking lying in front of traffic, that sounds stupid, but wait, it's not just lying in front of traffic. You also cover yourself with a white sheet, which is similar to the road color.
Yeah.
So if someone's not paying attention.
This seems like a cry for help from Gen Z and millennials. Like, I would rather get hit by a car than face what's coming.
And one girl did get run over. I ran over an Amazon package the other day.
What?
Why?
Yeah, because they deliver everything a day early at my house. And so I was like, it's not coming today. And I left in the middle of the day and then at lunchtime. And then I came back and it was there and I wasn't expecting it. Ran right over it. It was right in front of the garage.
How did the package fare?
It was those little plastic dental flossers. They tanked it, no problem.
Well, that was fortunate.
You can run over those, it turns out. My car's not very heavy, though. So okay. Well, we've all had a time. Now, I was telling Krista about this, Wendell. At some point during this week, my desire to play Cyberpunk just fell off a cliff. I don't know what happened. I don't care anymore.
I've been so busy that I haven't really had a chance to play it much, but I just got through the mission where you got to find art, and then after I came back to that, it's like, oh, you need to do this, and I've had so many people calling me that I'm just like, I'm not feeling it.
I don't know what it is. I've lost the desire. Hopefully it'll come back. I was enjoying it, but then I don't know what happened. Anyway, I did get to the point in the game where I experienced this, because they have those little markers and it's like, oh, who knows what this store sells? Well, that store sold dildos. And you can buy them. I don't know what you do with them in the game.
Sometimes you can junk them for components.
What components in a dildo? I guess there could be like batteries and stuff in there, right? Maybe a motor. Anyway, there's a lot of them.
Cyberpunk 2077 will soon no longer be a dildo paradise. They talked to the developers, and the developers are saying, yeah, it's spawning a little more often than we thought, so we'll fix that.
Sounds like a bug.
It's like, we wanted to be edgy, but this was actually a bug.
Speaking of bugs, we didn't include this because it literally just happened last night, but Sony is now refunding Cyberpunk via the PlayStation Store.
The people that are on PS4 were not having a good time. And some of the people on a PS5 were not having a good time.
Well, yeah, they've removed it from the store entirely. We'll be removing Cyberpunk 2077 from the PlayStation Store until further notice, is what they say on their website.
Well, on PC, the only bugs that I've experienced have been hilarious bugs, which I've experienced a lot of. But still not as bad as a Bethesda release.
I haven't had a single crash. Have you had a crash?
Like 2.
Yeah, well.
You had the one where when we were watching you stream the other night, and the guy drove by, but he wasn't in a car. He was just floating through the desert.
Yeah, hilarious bugs like that, but nothing that's like really a showstopper.
And there was one where you're trying to get through that window and it just launched you across the map.
Yeah.
But yeah, stuff like that. That's just, you have fun with it. I guess the 20th time it happens, it's probably not going to be fun anymore. But for now, it is.
But yeah, you cannot buy it through the PlayStation Store anymore.
That one guy had just borrowed Wonder Woman's invisible Lincoln.
How funny that you can't buy a game on a console which you also can't buy. Well, we talk a lot about cancel culture, and this is actually not the first recursive cancel culture story that we've done, amazingly enough, because this just keeps happening.
Julie Burchell's book about cancel culture has been canceled over Twitter row. So
now, it did get a little racial, and you do have to watch out for things like that, but she's clearly the kind of person who is not watching what she's saying, which is why she's been the victim of cancel culture so often. The thing that she said, which BBC was not willing to reprint, maybe I understand why, considering the national issues that they've had recently, but she mentioned that one of the Prophet Muhammad's wives might have been a little young. But I think that's canon, right?
That is, yeah. At least my understanding of it.
Engagement challenge? Maybe not. Maybe not engagement challenge on that one.
Yeah, let's maybe avoid that, but I'm sure it's going to be all over the comments now.
The YouTube algorithm will be along shortly to cancel us.
But the publisher stepped in and said that they don't tolerate that kind of thing, and they will not be publishing her book, which is ironic, but that's the world we live in now. Krista, please. And our final story, as I was prepping these stories, Wendell pointed out, and I do remember this is not the first time we've covered this story, and I don't think it's the same guy.
It's not.
I think there's more than one person doing this, which is terrifying.
Police, Louisiana man tricked women into changing diapers. So he faked a disability, and he just wanted women to, help him with his disability and also change his diapers, because this is apparently a common enough defect that it's happened more than once.
Now, here's the crazy thing about it, and this kind of goes back to the girls do porn thing. Even if you use deception to do this kind of thing, even though you're not locking anybody up or holding a gun on them or doing anything like that to prevent them from leaving, it still counts as human trafficking because you use deception to do it.
That seems like a much lower standard of, I guess a much higher standard of ethics than is involved with the typical board of directors of the American company.
Well, that's almost everything, right? But I do agree that lying to someone and making them wipe your ass is a serious thing to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's human trafficking necessarily, but it's horrible. What do you think, Krista? You got strong opinions on these topics.
This is a weird one because, I would think, even if, the job listing you said was like, oh, you need to take care of this disabled person, and you get there and you realize this person's clearly not disabled. I would think in this particular instance, it would be easier for you to back out because you haven't been flown across the country. But if you're desperate for money, as many people are right now, that is coercion. I don't know if human trafficking is the right charge for it, but it is an icky thing to do.
Here's the thing, though. I don't think they all knew. Because what he did, he went on to post the job descriptions, and it was him the whole time, but he was pretending to be a relative of this person. And he told the girls that it's like, just imagine that you're coming to take care of a small child, because mentally that's where he is. And you're going to have to do all these things. and he's not going to be able to communicate with you and blah blah blah. And then when they showed up, it was just him pretending to be that. So they didn't all necessarily know.
How does that? I have more questions than this article goes into, but like, how do you show up knowing that this person is essentially a child and there's no other adults in the house? And it's like, did everyone just leave? Like, who's been caring for him before I got here?
Krista, you might be thinking this through a lot more than all of the victims.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if you're desperate for money, maybe you just don't ask those kind of questions.
Maybe. And maybe
well, that's a shitty thing to do to someone who desperately needs cash.
Yeah, I guess that's true. And the world that we've entered into now, we're going to get into a whole big sort of ethical thing about like all the OnlyFans type stuff, right? Because what if those girls just really need money? I'm sure there's a lot of those. Krista,
I heard about that recently.
Krista, we had some comments on one of the other videos. I can't remember which one it was, and they're like, "When is Krista going to start an OnlyFans?" And it made me think, and I'm going to preface this by saying that we all know that this would never happen. So this is a thought experiment. Alternate universe Krista, just put yourself in that place. I would just love to see what your reaction would be to this. What if hubby saw that, and then you came home one day and he had like all the lights and the cameras set up. He had the bank account already like linked up to OnlyFans. Is that like a divorce? Is that a poisoning? What's your reaction to that?
It's really a poisoning. I would not. I guess I can't fault it entirely. I mean, we're kind of doing a side hustle, right? I mean, we do stuff with Twitch and YouTube and Patreon and all that. So, I mean, it's similar. But at the same time, I think about it and I'm like, we're still working full-time jobs. Can you imagine some poor, like, 18-year-old girl who's like, maybe this will be a good alternative to working down at the gas station. And then she's making like $200 a month, not even. And you're selling your privacy and your intimacy. That's so sad.
Or if she's making $20,000 a month.
Except that's like saying one day we might reach the same level as like Shroud. That's just never going to happen. But maybe it will. So, we should totally sell our entire personality. I don't know. It's weird. I would feel strange about that personally, but I don't know. We're entering into a weird time.
I thought you'd go divorce. I didn't think you'd go as far as poisoning.
I think you meant like poisoning the well.
Hey, hello, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Welcome to Exhibit A.
You're just walking it back now, Krista. All right.
Happy holidays, Merry Christmas,
oh, yeah,
whatever.
It's Christmas.
Yes, yeah.
Or whatever your holiday is, which wouldn't be on this day, would it?
You're watching this, go work on your Devember project with your Linode credits.
Go play some Minecraft. Everyone's really friendly.
On the Linode server, because there's a lot of stuff. And the next time we stream, which is probably not today, it's probably Sunday, we will go over the Minecraft things.
Aren't we? I thought we were giving them another week.
Oh, yeah.
Because, the server was a little weird.
But people really liked the interim. Like, maybe this could be another interim check-in.
Oh, yeah, we could just keep doing that all day. Because that's...
Oh, yeah, I've been creeping a little bit. I've been on and off this week, so...
Turns out those streams are real easy to do. Just turn Krista loose on it.
Yep.
Just bash people's constructions. Although I was really impressed. I haven't been on the server, but I have looked at the forum thread. Somebody has built a giant duck, which I really like.
Yeah, that's cool. I think that's actually a chicken grinder, technically. So you
it
can
has a function that's even better.
Yeah, I think that's what that is. I haven't actually found it on the server yet, but I think I saw a button on it. So it's a statue of the chicken, and then you press the button and it kills all the chickens inside.
Wow. What an achievement.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway, that's what you're missing out on, chat. Go check that out.
And we'll see you next week. Will we have announcements? Well, no, we won't have announcements next week. But the week after that, you'll find out who the winner was.
Was it
yes.
the week after? Or maybe the one after that, because New Year's is weird this year.
Oh, yeah.
Everything's, at the end of the week.
New Year's is on a Friday as well, right?
Yeah, you got like 3 weeks. It's going to be the middle of January, effectively.
Anyway.
We'll look on the forum thread for the actual date instead of listening to me.
Anyway, have a good holiday. We will see you guys next week. Bye.